What up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Pearl Daily here on the Audacity Network. So today we're having a special guest on the show. We're bringing back Andrew Wilson. So as you guys know, me and Andrew Wilson did debate last week. And it was really good back and forth that I didn't really expect we were going to have. And so we decided to continue the conversation today. But before we get into that, I do have a couple announcements for you. So the first thing is we are launching Audacity Academy. Sorry, it's actually called Pearl Academy on Wednesday. So if you guys sign up for the Audacity Network now, you're going to be automatically entered into this. It's going to be a community on school. And all we're going to do is we're going to enter your email into the school group. So that's going to start on Wednesday. So if you want to be a part of that, it's going to be pretty expensive. It's going to be about $2,000 lifetime purchase because I'm bringing in really smart, intelligent men to give you presentations on how to improve your love lives, how to improve your finances, et cetera, et cetera. And these are people that have taken me years to get in contact with. So it's really going to be worth your money, and you can get it for $10 a month, $100 a year if you buy it now. Wednesday, it's going to be very expensive. So I don't want any complaints about the price because I've been telling you for months this is going up. It's happening Wednesday. Okay, second thing is later in the show, we're going to have on Amouranth's husband. I'm going to fill you in on that story, but that's later. And then third, I want to show you guys the documentary trailer. So I've actually, me and Andrew Wilson's debate on, actually here, let me send him the Zoom. We were kind of going back about the question, what the heck? There we go. What's in it for men? So let me show you guys the documentary trailer. I just posted it today and yesterday on Twitter. So we're going to react to this. Okay. Oh, man. No. Hold on. Oh, my gosh. Hold on, guys. All right. This is like... Okay. Bear with me. Sorry, guys. Okay. All right. Now let's watch the trailer together.
This clip going viral online of a dozen women being asked the following question: do we need men? Most answered very quickly, no.
Because men are useless.
This headline from The Hill, it caught my eye. Most young men are single. Most young women are not.
Young men have fallen faster than any demographic in America over the last 40 years.
It's a different world now. Like, we don't need men the way that they used to.
Nobody needs men!
The future is female.
Men and women are drifting further apart, and society is crumbling because of it.
A fascinating debate has broken out about the value of marriage.
You've kind of got the trad-con versus red pill thing.
This men's rights crowd that sometimes just goes too far the other way.
You need to stop acting like grown boys and infants and actually become men.
Marriage is a bond, and it's a sacred bond.
It's a machine designed to extract resources from you.
Now many of the red-pilled have taken the position that it's bad for men to get married.
Hannah Pearl Davis, or just Pearly things.
One of the most controversial faces in all of the internet.
She goes on to say that marriage is a terrible deal for men.
Because if me and you were in a business contract, you would never sign a contract where I am paid to leave.
Gee, what could go wrong there?
74% or something of divorces are initiated by women. Men have everything to lose, primarily their own children.
Men get killed by the courts and by divorce laws.
I had no idea that courts of family law were courts of equity, not courts of law.
Because in family court, you don't need evidence to accuse someone of abuse. You need no evidence. When you guys say get married young, a lot of these men don't know what they're signing up for, and you're not going to be there when their entire life falls apart. I interview them on the other side.
I didn't meet my son until he was 15 months old.
How much did you spend trying to get him back?
On legal fees alone was about $200,000.
Before you know it, you're homeless. You're literally just thrown out onto the street.
We absolutely reinforce bad behavior from women.
Wives are taught to leave their husbands, and then daughters grow up without their fathers.
Family is the foundation of society.
Every problem in society comes from single mother homes.
A lot of women will just chase this negative rabbit hole of happiness, endless happiness.
Feminism's biggest failures is it lies to women. We tell women to date as many guys as possible. We tell them to put off family into marriage.
You are allowed to leave your perfect husband. You are allowed to end a relationship with a really great boyfriend.
Oh, freeze your eggs, have an abortion. What? You're evil.
I don't think there's anything else in life that we actually ever go into preparing to fail.
Right.
Like if you have the mentality of this is going to go wrong and be pessimistic, naturally the outcome is going to be that it's going to fail anyway. Yeah. It's self-sabotage.
And that's the thing, like women are so willing to leave marriages because they're not happy. This is not about happiness. The most important thing is the children. And the problem is we have a modern society where it's me, my feelings, leave when I feel like it, instead of doing what's best for the kids.
This myth that we live in an age of male privilege. Where's my male privilege?
They think, well, men have all the rights. They have all the power.
Privileged patriarchal system that we have.
Why doesn't our society care about men's rights?
I have no friends, no wife, and no social life.
Men are alone in this situation. Men are homeless. Men are thinking about eating guns.
I've seen so many men on the brink of suicide and they didn't do anything wrong.
How are you equal if the men are the ones that have to fight and die to defend the country? The men are the ones that build and maintain all the infrastructure.
Women are helplessly dependent upon men.
The so-called deaths of despair from suicide, overdose, or alcohol, 3 times higher among men than among women.
Culture is telling men, you are no good.
You got to get your act together.
I think men have failed themselves.
What kind of a man are you? What kind of a woman are you going to attract?
If men are in trouble, so are women.
Everybody knows this is a huge problem, but nobody wants to admit it.
Every single woman at the table said they wanted a man.
500K,
500K,
200K,
300K,
200K.
Am I crazy?
Everything is really set up against you to fail as a man.
If men make less than women, women don't want to marry them.
So you know who wants more economically and emotionally viable men? Women.
I don't want to be an independent woman anymore.
I don't want to be a strong, independent woman.
I'm over it.
When is it going to be my turn?
Where are we meeting the men that don't stop?
I can't keep having these same conversations.
The only simp here is you, Pearl. You simp for men.
I think you simp for women.
She's a provocateur. She says stupid stuff, but Pearl is right about this.
It's already happening. It's just not out in the open yet.
Now it's just hookup culture is going to be our fairy tale ending because men don't want a wife and women can't find a husband. The future, if everybody follows your path, is there is no future.
We go into population decline, and our economy goes into decline.
Civilization will crumble.
The American story does not end well. This is an existential crisis, failing young men.
So the whole idea, the whole question of this documentary is really, all these commentators, and this is kind of what inspired the question I asked Andrew this weekend. We had a debate where I just kept asking him the question, what do men get out of marriage? And I kept seeing all these, the smartest people way smarter than me, right? And they're like, why is the birth rate falling? Why are men dropping out of the workforce? Why are men not going to school? Why aren't they making as much money? And these would be people that were so much smarter than me. And I just keep asking the question, what does he get? And until conservatives, the right, the left, whoever can answer that question, men naturally do a cost-benefit analysis. And the trends are just going to keep going the way they're going until they can answer this question and have a good answer. Now, I really want to finish this documentary. We've put together a lot of the footage the past few years. The challenge was when we collected all this footage, we didn't really know what we were doing. And if you go through this, a lot of this kind of looks like low budget. And my goal is I really want to refilm this, a lot of the interviews of guys we already had in and they'd be willing to come back, but just like a higher quality, a little bit more professional. So it looks like a Netflix level, like a Netflix grade documentary. The challenge is that's very, very expensive. The quotes I've been given are $500,000 to $1 million. Now, we're considering doing it in-house, but again, you got to hire someone full-time do that in-house. And when we were demonetized a year and a half, to be honest, guys, it just really like it just really sucked. Like we really had to put this on pause for like a year and a half. And we put in so much work into it. It was the unfortunate thing. But so if you guys want to donate to this, it's the link, the GoFundMe is in the description. If you have a big donation that you want to make, you can email me, justpearlythings@gmail.com. Right now we're distributing directly. We're in talks with some people to distribute through other platforms, but right now we're just going to do it on our app, the Audacity Network. We're open to other opportunities. That's fine. But a lot of people that have asked me have been asking about distribution. But yeah, if we want to get it done, that's really what it's going to cost. I think maybe for 100 to like 200, we could fin it, like, because we need to get a full-time person on this, and a lot of the good people are just expensive. Yeah, so that's really what we're doing with the documentary. I think right now we're at like 15,000, and we had a decent donation. Someone donated directly. So anyways, the link to that's in the description if you want to donate. All right. Now we're going to talk to Andrew Wilson, the 304 Destroyer. How's it going, Andrew?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfect. How are you?
Good. I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me back. I wanted to revisit the conversation we'd had when I went out there in person. I thought we had kind of a bit of a spirited back and forth. I know that we agree on a lot of descriptors, but some of the prescriptors I thought we could get into again. Okay. After I was thinking about some of your points, especially. So moving back, I wanted to start with this. Do you agree with me that promiscuity in women is generally bad?
Sure.
You don't think that that's a good thing?
I don't really want to go down that rabbit hole because good and bad doesn't matter. I'm in the business of predicting.
Okay.
So if I had to predict where it's going to go, women are going to keep getting promiscuous.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So your predictive model, I agree. I'm not going to get into like morals or ethics with you. That's not what I mean by good or bad, like moral or immoral.
Right.
Right. But like, is it bad for women generally to be promiscuous? Like, does it lower their value structure?
You could say that, yeah. But I don't really always see promiscuous women have bad outcomes in real life, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, the thing is like, because if it is the case that you think that men are going to check out of society, they're going to check out and become promiscuous because marriage is a raw deal, right? Then you're actually assigning.
Some men don't care enough to even like some men are just going to check out. They're not even going to try to get sex.
Yeah. I agree. I agree with that. So. But wouldn't you be assigning these promiscuous women value then? Wouldn't they actually be a valuable asset to society if it is the case that if men can't get married and can just play the field and have sex with tons of women, wouldn't they actually be very valuable to men then?
Why would they be valuable to men?
Well, because obviously men want to fuck them, right? And if they're
men need sex, right?
Yeah,
that is a need for a guy.
So then these women would be valuable, right?
Well, I think if they were valuable, they'd marry them, wouldn't they?
Well, so yeah, this is a fundamental question though. If you're not going to marry,
that's the whole point.
If you're not going to marry them and you're just going to have sex with them, then the value's in the sex itself.
Yeah, I mean, men do want to have sex. Yeah.
Yeah, so then that would be what would make women valuable is that they were essentially that they were hoes. Essentially, would make them valuable.
I mean, they bring more value than the wives that are married and they don't sleep with their husbands.
You think hoes bring more value than wives?
Than ones that don't sleep with their husbands, which is really common.
Yeah, well, I went through and pulled a bunch of the stats, right? So, especially when it comes to sexless marriages, that usually happens years into the marriage, over a decade, in fact, before that starts.
After the youngest kid goes to preschool.
Yeah, that's often the case. And often those are only for limited amounts of time, right? Though not always, right? But it's actually a more isolated case. When I look at this is from Pearly, Privatira LLC, they made a study on this. We were talking about Christian marriage because you're asking, what's the incentive for men to get married? Well, from a secular standpoint, I think I agree with you that secularist men probably shouldn't. It looks like it doesn't
Well, we're
look very good for them.
we're in a secular society, Andrew.
Not yet. We're getting there, but we're not there yet.
You don't think it's pretty secular now?
Not yet.
Like what percent of people even attend church weekly?
Well, that's true, but 70% of the populace does consider themselves to be at least self-identifies as Christian.
But don't you need actions to match that?
Yeah, you do. But interestingly enough, there must be because it's only 20-25% of Christian marriages which end in divorce at all.
I mean, that's again what you guys say, right?
I mean, that's what the stats show.
Okay.
Yeah, 20 to 25%.
But Gen Z, you don't know what Gen Z is going to be. And that's the whole point.
Wouldn't they follow the same trends, roughly?
I would guess it would be worse.
Why?
Because Gen Z women are the first women that are on social media. Plus, divorce keeps going up over time.
Well, divorce is lower now than it has been ever.
Right, because people aren't getting married. Because you're kind of trying to divert.
The divorce isn't going up.
Because the thing is, you're trying to divert from the question. If you want marriage to increase, you have to give a good answer to the question.
Because it's the only way that you can have. It's the only way you can have children without single motherhood.
What do children get out of marriage?
Well, if mommy and daddy aren't married. Right, then the children have very, very bad outcomes. Single mother homes have terrible outcomes, and single father homes aren't tenable, generally speaking, because they're the working parent, right? So the only way for men to have families is through marriage.
So what do women get out of marriage?
They generally get resources. They generally get resources, and they get access to status, social status, security, things like this.
And what do men get out of marriage?
They get children out of marriage.
Okay. And what do they get out of marriage that they couldn't get from just a live-in girlfriend?
Mothers. So here's, an intact family, in other words.
Okay,
so
they can't,
here's the thing.
If you have if the woman lives with him, what's the difference?
The thing is when we look at
hang
on. Well, let me respond to it.
Go ahead.
If we look at the social data for what you're talking about, this happens all the time. That's called a single mom, right? You live with the chick, you impregnate the chick, you're not married to the chick. Those end up in the most.
Crowder's in the same position. So are a lot of
He doesn't have children with some. No, he doesn't. He doesn't have children with some live-in girlfriend, right?
Right, but he's not with the mother of his kids now. He did a really public divorce.
Yeah, but this is a different.
So, I know, but my point is, you can say data all you want, but when people are witnessing conservative people that pushed a lot of this stuff getting divorced, men are going to naturally do a cost-benefit analysis and realize there's no difference.
So here's the cost benefit. Here's a cost benefit analysis, Sim.
And so, my other question too would be, who do the kids belong to? Do they belong to him or do they belong to her?
Yeah, so I believe in patrilineal society. I think that children belong to their fathers,
right?
And always have thought so. And that would be a form of reform inside of the court. And by the way, traditionally this was always the way it happened.
But in society today, where women get custody 90% of the time, who do the kids belong to?
That's not the case anymore. They don't get it 90% of the time now.
Do they belong to her or do they belong to him?
Well, they belong to the court system. Okay. They're the ones who are making the allocation.
And where are the majority of the time who gets custody?
Yeah, that's generally speaking women. I agree.
Okay, so what do men get out of marriage? If
the
majority of the time the kids belong to her and not him.
Okay, but here's the thing. You got to let me actually answer.
Okay.
So I'll try to answer this question, but it's comprehensive. So the step one, you have to reform the system, the court system. Men have to move towards the reformation of the court system. Is that challenging? Yes, but prenuptial agreements, as cited, I went and looked at the data again. They are mostly enforced. That is the case.
Right,
when
when they're contested,
hang on,
Pearl,
let me finish, Pearl.
When they're contested, because when they're contested,
because I'm not allowed to make a point. Only you're allowed to make points.
You're still going to get dragged to court. That's the problem. So a lot of guys, if the prenup is contested,
you're not going to get dragged to court. This is the issue, right? This is a performative contradiction. Here's how.
Okay.
Because you say that women are reliant upon these men for resources. That's what women are getting out of it. So why is it if you had a prenup, they're not going to get resources? Why would they drag them to court? Why?
Because they're spiteful. Why did Crowder's wife?
But they would be.
Why did Crowder's wife?
Because she got a bunch of fucking money.
I know, but why did Crowder's wife leak footage to the press? She didn't have to do that. She'd probably
because she thought it would help her case for resources.
Right, but the problem is in the court of public opinion. Women are spiteful. It's not always about money. Ashley St. Clair was offered a ton of money just to shut up, right? She didn't shut up.
Yeah, but here's the thing, right? Ashley St. Clair is going to get the money either way, right? She has the kid in the arrangement. That was not a marriage. Inside of a marriage, if Crowder had signed a prenup, I bet you things would have been completely different across the board. Same thing with most men who are wealthy, who sign prenuptial agreements. They end up, women want the resources. That's the whole gain, right? I want the resources. If they can't get the resources, it's an incentive for the behavior. Not only that, but here's the other thing. If you promote against marriage, against the idea of marriage, and I'm not saying that you like this idea that I'm Michael Knowles or something, I'm telling men, just take the plunge and take the risks. No, we're both doing risk mitigation. Pearl's doing risk mitigation. I'm doing risk mitigation. What I'm saying with Pearl saying with risk mitigation is for no man is it ever worth it, so just play the field.
I did not say that. I did not. Well, I don't tell men what to do.
Okay.
I don't think it's my place.
I think it ultimately reduces to that though. So the thing is that my position is just this: risk mitigation. If you want to have children in a family, the best outcome for the kids it's going to be marriage. Like no matter what, it's going to be marriage. But you have to do risk mitigation.
That's what's in it for the kids.
And for the man.
Not for the man, because when you get married, you're just adding on another layer.
Of what?
Of now she can go for alimony. Because a lot of times it's not about the money, Andrew. I mean, yeah, like sometimes it is the money, but it's like men want to stop dealing with crazy women. Like the amount of money men will pay to get a wife to stop nagging him. And now she can if she chooses, contest the prenup and drag him to court. He could agree with the terms that she like asks for or whatever just to get it over with. But it's like the spitefulness of women. It's not necessarily always the money. And so again, you're going back to, well, it's best for the kids, right? But you don't answer the question, what's best for him?
Having a family is what's best for him.
Right.
By every single conceivable metric, having a family is what's best for men. It lowers the rates of STDs. It earns the earning income goes up. Their general welfare and happiness in a happy marriage goes way up. We can tell because we can look at the suicidality of men who have gone through terrific divorces or who stay single, right? And their depression rates are sky high. All of these things are sky high.
Why do you think they make more money in marriage?
Well, that would be the incentive for their kids.
Well, right. To keep up with kids are cheap. It's women's spending habits that are expenve. Right? The Botox, the clothes.
Yeah.
I mean, we had your wife on. We had your wife on, and she was going through the costs of kids. It's not as expensive, seemingly, as what people say. According to
so I just real quick though, 90% is up to 90%. The vast overwhelming majority of prenuptial agreements are not successfully contested in court. It seems like a massive incentive for women if they want to hold their resources, even from a secular side, to do this. But if you combine this with the Christian side, the Christian ethics side of very religious women, the divorce rate goes down to damn near nil.
Okay. Well, are most women religious in this society?
No.
Okay.
But neither are most men.
Okay. Right. But so now you're going into like selling your religion, right?
Well, only if you want to have a family. Well, if you want to have the most successful family, yeah.
Right, but I mean, Orthodox is 1% of the population. I'm not a religious show.
It's not just for Orthodox.
What I'm talking about is, and again, you're not really answering the question. You're saying you might get your kids.
No, what I'm saying is that by every single conceivable metric which is available for men, what is considered the loneliness epidemic, or the number one reported mental health issue for men, is that they're lonely. They feel lonely. Right. If that is the case and loneliness goes away when they get married, then it seems like what would be really good for men would be to get married in a good, stable relationship. Your counter is, but there's not that many marriageable women.
Correct.
But there's never always.
I know, but you agree with that, right? So most men aren't getting a marriageable woman.
Most men never got one.
Right. So most men, it's not, marriage isn't for them.
Yeah, but you can't create the conditionals.
Most men, like if like out of 2 men or 10 men over 6 aren't going to get a good deal, right?
But they never did. They never got a good deal.
So are you telling them to take a bad deal?
No, what I'm telling them specifically is very simple. That the historic fact of the matter is that most men never got to reproduce at all.
Right.
Your chances of reproduction now are way higher than ever. And the reason the sex drive is so high for men is because it's a biological imperative for reproduction. Otherwise, you wouldn't get a boner and want to go have sex, right? Especially not with good-looking, younger-looking women. That's the whole point of it. If you want stability in society, which is good for men, you want stability against degeneracy, which is also very good for men, then you want stable marriages for men.
What does society give men in return for producing a stable society? What do they give men in return?
Well, society never gave men anything for the production of stable societies.
Fine, but I'm asking today, what do they give them in return?
Yeah, I mean,
do they give them? Do they treat them well?
What men get in exchange for having a stable society is they get a stable society. That's the exchange. That's always been the exchange. Like historically, men have always been fodder. They've always been war fodder. They've always been basically treated poorly. But the idea here that we have to make perfect conditionals for marriage absent any risk or mitigating risk is silly. That's impossible no matter what.
If men keep getting married, what is the incentive for the laws to change? Where is the
incentive? Well, hang on. They can still get married absent the state, and that would still create conditionals for the laws to change.
If men keep having children, what is the incentive for society to give them fairer laws?
Well, what do you mean? If they have children and there's prenuptial agreements in place, women now have incentive to not destroy their own financial security for the future.
But again, so you're saying, well, she won't completely ruin your life, right? You're not saying a reward.
Yeah, but
like
let's start with the fact that
like you get enthusiastic sex with a hot wife.
But there's a lot of you missed the point though that there's a lot of marriages that work.
Statistically,
what about the fact
that
there's so many marriages that work?
Statistically, that's just not true.
Well, okay, let's look at the statistics since you want to bring them up.
Go ahead.
You're looking at an estimate of 40%. 40% of the marriages are failing. Okay, the vast majority of them are still not. And as less people get married, those marriages are actually working out longer.
What is the obesity rate in America?
Oh, it's overwhelming for men and women.
Okay. Are most men ecstatic to take on this enormous risk and responsibility for a fat wife?
No.
Okay. So again, you have to answer the question, what's in it for
I'm
guys?
answering the question. So what's in it for men is the only thing that's ever been in it for men. Family.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to be a good enough answer. If you're right, then men are going to sign up to get married. You don't have to convince me.
But what about what about like the qualifiers of men have to live in this world?
Right.
We have to live in this world. We live in a world full of degeneracy and basically horrifying things because of the instability of society. And you almost disempower them in a way because you're saying they don't have the power to change the nature of law.
I just want them to make an informed decision.
Yeah,
that's it.
But I mean, the informed decision towards what? Their happiness?
Whatever they want to do. It's not my place to tell
men.
Well,
do you think they want to be happy?
It's not my place to tell men how to live.
Well, do you think they want to be happy, though?
Well, I think that happiness is a feeling that comes and goes. So I don't really...
So you don't want them to be happy?
I think
you just want to do what they want?
No, I didn't say that. I said it's a feeling that comes and goes.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I don't think studies
I would think ultimately you would want men happy, right?
I want them to do what they want to do.
Okay, well, do you think that most men want to be happy?
I'm not a preacher channel, right? I'm not here to tell you how to live. I'm not saying that you're a preacher.
I'm not preaching. Right now, I'm just talking about the facts. The facts of the matter are, don't you think men want to be happy?
Well, if marriage makes them happy, then I'm sure they'll sign up. I'm sure the marriage rates will go up.
Yeah, that's not an answer to the question I asked.
Sure.
But the question I asked specifically is, do you think men want to be happy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if you think that men want to be happy, and if we look at all of the data that we can possibly find on male promiscuity and happiness, it doesn't look very good for them. Okay. So even if it were the case that you advocate against marriage, which is fair, especially secular marriage,
I don't advocate against marriage. I see it.
All right, I'll try not to straw man it.
I see it disappearing from the middle class completely.
Mm-hmm.
I see it just becoming something that the rich do. And I see the birth rates continuing to decline, and I see marriage going away because people like you can't give men good answers on why they get married. Should accumulate that risk.
What did men ever get?
You're saying risk 40% of your income for 18 years. If you have 2+ children, the woman can take you to court and take 40% of your income. It's not that every woman will. It's that every woman can. As soon as you enter into a marriage contract, she has the leverage.
Now answer my question. What did men ever get out of marriage? What did men ever get out of marriage?
I don't really care about what they got in the past.
Answer my question. What did they ever get out of marriage?
But I don't care because I'm talking about the facts
I don't care
today.
if you don't care. Answer the question. What did men ever get out of marriage?
I don't care.
Well,
it's about because we have to operate. We have to operate
for marriage.
Like what does a guy care about what happened 100 years ago? He cares about the decisions he has to make today.
Yeah, I know, but
he has to use
you're
the
like
facts
a question
today.
avoiding machine.
No,
so
you want me to do what you do, which is prescribe. I don't prescribe.
I'm not even asking for prescriptions. Okay. I'm asking right now for a description. What did men ever get out of marriage? What?
Yeah, well, I can think it's a stupid question. So like,
I don't
think it matters.
What did they ever get out of it? Ever?
I don't know. Tell me.
You don't know.
No, go ahead. No, tell me.
They got the same thing I'm prescribing, which is a family. That's the what else would the incentive ever be?
And again, if that's so great, then men will sign up. If that's great,
so
like if a product's good, there's a big demand, right?
Mm-hmm. There is a big demand. Men want to get married.
Sure. Then
but
if they wanted to, they would, right?
When we talk past each other is like if you describe all the issues, that's fair, right? But the description of the issue is supposed to be for the purpose of what men do best, which is solving the issue. I don't mind you giving all the descriptors. I think that's great. Okay. But the idea of like, Andrew, what do men get right now? That's not a good enough reason. What did men ever get out of it? It's the same reason. It must be the best reason.
Then run for office. Run.
I mean, I would much rather fund NGOs so that I could get people in key positions to change law, but the same principle.
Go do it.
But what I'm saying to you is like, from a descriptive standpoint,
that's
I am
the point.
doing
like
it. I have been doing it.
Okay, then I'm sure there'll be great change in the next 10 years.
Well, we're going to try,
and
right?
I'll be completely wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, the trends can continue to nosedive, but let's assume for a second that like it all nosedives. What does the future look like then?
Well, I don't think there'll be change until my prediction is we'll only see change when society crumbles enough for women to face the consequences of their decisions.
And what happens then?
Then there might be change. That's what I would predict. I would predict that things go down until things are falling apart enough, and then maybe there'll be a policy change. Maybe.
Meaning that
probably
can fix,
probably not.
Meaning we can fix the problems, right?
Not anytime soon.
No, but when we reach this like plateau.
Sure.
So then wouldn't it logically follow then that we should accelerate the decline as quickly as possible to reach that plateau to fix these things?
Sure. If that's sure.
So then that's an accelerationist mindset, right?
I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm saying I don't see them changing anytime soon. That's it. I don't. Yeah. I don't think in my lifetime there'll be major.
But ultimately,
changes.
Do you want to see them change?
It would be nice.
Yeah. So then if that's the case, I'll just assume the position for a moment, your position, just descriptors. Here's where we're going. It would still be really wise to have men's rights advocacy groups and things like this in place for this inevitable decline, so that those types of policies can then be pushed, so that we're like ready for them, right?
Sure, but the first one was in 1910. So if we're where we are today and the first one was over 100 years ago.
The first what? Policy?
No, the first men's rights advocacy. I think it was around 1910. I don't know the exact.
Yeah, but they were advocating for completely different things, right?
I mean, I saw ones about divorce law early in the 1900s. Off the top of my head, I don't know, but.
Yeah.
I
mean, divorce. It used to be we had coverture laws. So I mean, coverture laws basically, in that case, you had to have show cause in order to get divorced, under coverture laws, things like that. It was most of the early 1900s, I believe. So the thing that's interesting though is like
I
look
but
at this.
My point is, I just don't see it being effective because the last 100 years it's gotten worse, not better. So why would I think? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. But I mean, so the thing is like things have gotten better. Abortion laws have been rolled back, right?
But Plan B's gone up.
True. Only in some states, though. I went and checked the stats on that as well.
Sex work has gone up, too.
But you know what else is going down is female promiscuity and male promiscuity over time.
Right.
And what's interesting...
But STD rates are up. So how do you explain
Because
that?
sex work is up.
Okay. Well, if that's not what the guys dating are saying, but okay.
Yeah, because they're dating women who have only... I mean, you're talking about like 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 now. It can have an OnlyFans. The sex work epidemic has exploded STDs. I mean, we can look at this objectively. When's the
last time you dated? Yeah. Like, when's the last time you actually dated?
Oh, it's been fucking, I don't know, like, what, 17 years or something?
So how do you think you know better than the guys dating? Like, what's out there?
I mean, when's the last time you dated?
Like a year ago? Year and a half ago?
Okay, so from your sample size, you think that in 17 years the marketplace for dating has changed so much that I'm not allowed to have any input in it?
Oh no, I just don't think you really know what's on the ground if you haven't done it in 17 years, because it's the advent of social media has changed the dating marketplace a lot, like a lot.
Yeah, why do you think? Wait a second, back up. Yeah, I don't understand why you think that you couldn't have input and research the stat. I'm using the same stats you're using. Mm-hmm. Like it's not, and I have the same conversations with thousands of people you have, men and women both. The same exact, like the same amount of anecdotal evidence and statistics, right?
Sorry, what I could say, maybe a better way to say it is, I think it's like an oversimplification of the problem when you're saying, oh, it's just like bad women that these guys are dating. Like I don't really think it's that simple.
That's not what I said at all.
Or it's
what
just,
I said is that the conditionals.
It's just sex worker women that these guys are dating, right?
No, that would account for one thing: STDs. Okay. The STD rates going sky high.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So what I gave you was the answer that you're always looking for. That men get out of marriage, same thing they always got out of it, a family. And why is it that men are always gravitating towards family? Well, it seems to be biologically hardwired in them because they've always done that.
Sure, it is.
So if that's the case, their happiness level's intrinsically tied to that. It seems that if you wanted to advocate for men, then you would be advocating the most for the idea of keeping marriage sacrosanct and also making sure that these things got reformed as quick as possible.
Okay. If someone took your prescription, can you give me like step by step your prescription for how men, if to get married, stay married, what's your prescription?
First of all, I wouldn't say, you keep on framing this as though I'm saying take a plunge when I'm not saying take a plunge.
That's totally fine. Tell me what's beginning to end.
First,
so where should they source?
I would look at these stats.
No, not the stats. Where should they source the women from? Like what state should they go to? What church? I'm guessing you're going to say Orthodox.
Okay, so I'll answer your question, right? You're not going to find huge variances state by state. Okay. You're just not going to, okay? But you can definitely upgrade the chances of you finding a woman who's not going to have these behaviors, which you and I would both consider non-optimal. Okay. So it wouldn't just be the Orthodox Church, Roman Catholic Church, and even Protestants, as long as the worship is more than one time per week, right? Their marriage rates significantly go down. If you get married as a virgin, you almost never get a divorce because your sample size is super low.
So are you saying they should find a virgin, or do you think that's realistic nowadays to find a virgin woman?
Yeah. No. I'm giving you a step-by-step prescription of all the things you can do to mitigate risk.
Right. No, but I'm not saying mitigate risk. I'm saying, do they download a dating app? Are they going to go on Instagram? How are they going to do it?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
go to church.
So I'll walk through it, right? Okay. But what we're talking about is risk mitigation. So let's start with risk mitigation.
I want the dating process from beginning to end.
Oh, okay. We'll give.
Go ahead.
What? You want me to give a dating process from beginning to end for every individual man on planet Earth?
Well, okay, if a guy wants to go on your prescription.
No, the dating process is going to be very
How is he going to source women?
On region, it's going to be varied on man, it's going to be varied on what options are available. But what you can look at is all the signs of the universals which mitigate risk. What you're asking is for an absurdity. It's like me asking, tell me step by step, how do I become a successful podcaster?
Oh,
every woman on Earth, how do you become a successful podcaster?
I could do that pretty easily.
Do it.
No, but I asked you first, and you don't have an answer because you don't have.
Because it's an impossible question.
No, it's actually pragmatic because if you have a real,
it's not even pragmatic.
If you have a real plan for men, you have to have a step by step. Like, what's step one?
Yeah, so step one would be looking at the mitigation for risk. That would be step one.
But you have to get a girl on a date first before you even get there.
No, you don't have to get a girl on a date to mitigate risk, bro.
Okay, well, I guess there's no risk if you never get on the date.
Yeah, that's right. So the thing is, if you're talking about
if we're
talking about mitigation,
where is he sourcing the women from? Instagram?
You're asking for stuff. Stop cutting me off.
I need you.
If you're asking a question, you got to let me answer the fucking question.
But you're not answering the question.
What's the question? But then you have to not talk while I answer it.
Okay, I'll try. I'm a woman, so it's kind of tough.
Okay, go ahead.
Step-by-step process. How does he get a girl on a date? Where should he meet them?
Get a girl on a date? You would go online. You'd have conversations with women everywhere that you went. The various things that we've always done to get women on dates.
Okay, so you go on the dating apps and get women on dates.
No, I didn't say that. What did I say? Repeat back what I said.
You said go online. I assumed you went dating apps and talk to women. And talk to women. Totally fine.
Yes. Are you ever going to get a woman? Are you ever going to get a woman on a date, Pearl, if you don't talk to any of them?
Okay, so you talk to women and
are you ever going to get a woman on a date if you don't talk to them?
So I want to keep going through the process.
No.
I want to keep going through the process. So you meet them on a dating app, okay? Or you meet them
I didn't say meet them on a dating app.
Okay, then can you tell me where?
Yeah, I would. All you have to do to begin the initial process of dating women is use whatever connections, resources you have to start connecting with various women. You can use dating apps, sure. That seems to be one of the most common ways that you do it.
Okay.
But you can also use friends of friends. You can use your family members. You can use all sorts of different ways to connect with women the same way that men and women have been connecting forever.
Sure.
Except now you have also the online component.
Sure, totally fine. So then what's next? Do you take her on a date? Is that
you can take her on a date, but usually the second step would be to be in the talking phase. And inside the talking phase, you're able to actually identify many of these risk mitigating factors, which become immediately apparent in 90% of the conversations. They become very apparent, the red flags or the risk mitigation. I wouldn't take a woman on a date. I would be in the talking phase with multiple women for an elongated period of time before I ever took one out on a date.
Okay, fine. So how long should they talk before they get to the date?
Well, it's going to vary from person to person.
Okay, but what would you suggest?
I would suggest that you talk to them until you feel like you've gathered enough information and intel on the mitigation of these red flags, and then I would take them. Sure, you could take them on a date then.
Okay, and what information are you trying to get from them?
Well,
what
that's
are the red
great.
Flags?
Glad that you asked that question for risk mitigation.
Sure.
I'd be looking for things like, were you raised by a single mom? Right? What are your goals? What are the structure in life that you're after? Whether or not it is the case that you have a present father in your life. How many tattoos do you have? That would be another good one. Your promiscuity level. I do a little intel maybe around their Facebook, things like this. See how many male friends they have. There's tons and tons.
Okay.
The same things that women do.
Yeah, totally fine. So now you get her on the date. Are you trying to sleep with her? Are you waiting till you're suggesting they wait till marriage? Is that what you're?
Well, yeah, only if they want the best outcomes. Yeah, and they don't want to create single moms that they have to take care of their children. Yeah, it seems like a good idea.
If she's not a virgin, are you telling them they should still wait till marriage?
Yeah, I still would. Yeah.
Okay. So
if you're interested in a woman who's not a virgin, right?
Well,
my assumption is the man's not going to be a virgin either.
95%, right?
Yeah, and most of the men aren't going to be virgins who are taking those women out either.
Okay.
That's the case, yes, factually.
So
that is the dating market.
So you want men to pay a higher price for what other men got for free.
Oh, so, okay. Well, let's just grant this. Let's say they don't, right? You want men to sleep with a woman on the first date?
Can you answer my question and I'll answer yours?
Okay, so the answer's
yes.
in the answer. I'll explain it.
No.
So
do you
the
want
thing
men
is,
to
it's
pay a
like,
high? You don't like the answer to the question.
You don't have to sleep with this woman to get to know her if you think that she's worth the risk, and you think that she's worth it to stick around to sleep with later or to date long term. Sure. The problem that you have here is that if we operate. No, my turn. If we operate off of your logic, right? If a woman has ever slept with a man ever, should no man ever wait to sleep with that woman?
I think
or should it be
that's
immediate?
a tough sell.
What's that?
You can sell that. It's a tough sell.
So then you think that the woman, if you've ever had sex as a woman, you should just give it up?
Okay, so you want guys to
answer the question. Answer the question.
I will answer that question.
No, you're not answering the question.
I will answer that question.
If a woman's ever had sex, every man she dates, should she fuck him?
No, I don't think so.
No. Okay.
I don't think
you're saying that
she
should make him wait.
I think there's certain men you can treat special though, and I think most men want to be treated special and not like other men. So
is every man you've ever gone on a date with, have you slept with him immediately?
No. How about you? How about you?
No, I don't sleep with any men.
No. I mean, what was your dating experience like? Did you wait? I mean, if you want to go person,
Of course. I like to get to know people, things like this, of course.
Sure.
But the thing is like, that's my point.
I mean,
my point is...
I don't want to go personal, but if you're good, you know what I mean?
No, I'm not trying to be personal. I'm trying to demonstrate a point. Of course, you don't sleep with every man immediately. That would be absurd.
Right.
That's not a personal attack.
Right,
it's just an objective
but women
fact.
do sleep with men faster that they like.
Generally speaking, I think the same thing with men. They generally will try to sleep with women faster if they like them.
How would a guy know the difference between a girl that's using him for resources, or like just trying to use him for the lifelong provisioning, or that actually likes him?
Well, every woman is going to be utilizing men to some degree for resources, and historically always has.
Okay.
The idea, though, that you can't mitigate these risks by taking a look at the entirety of their social media, doing a little social stalking, which is you're just looking around at their connections and things like this in order to see what the general trend is. You can basically determine this fairly quickly. In fact, men have become so savvy to this in the dating market, they're beginning the high rates of rejection now, where they're like, nope. So there's
no women that at all could mitigate any of this. I mean, the biggest hoes that I knew in school had pretty much no digital footprint, no social media, none.
Well, I mean, that's
because it's like a strategy actually, because they want to get they want to get around. And
well, it's really difficult now. Well, then, even if that was the case,
like a small private,
I would just put that as another red flag. Oh, you have no social media presence? Nah, maybe that's another red flag.
But wouldn't you say that women are developing new strategies every year to get around some of totally? But don't you think that some of the men that you're suggesting this to are going to get got? Just balance of probabilities.
Yeah, but no matter what conditionals we make in society, some men are going to get got. There's nothing you can do about that ever. Doesn't matter if you had the perfect utopia, some men are going to get got.
Okay, so what percent, going through all these strategies, what percent of men do you think will get got?
I think that you
think
can
it's
lower
0%?
the risk. I think you can lower the risk mitigation down to somewhere around 15 to 20%, which is what we see in these types of elongated Christian marriages.
So you think about 20% of men will get got?
I think that all 20% of men have always gotten got, and there ain't a damn thing you can do about it.
But why would a man take that deal?
Because they want to have a family like they've always wanted to.
Right. But, and do you think that if people stay married, that's automatically a successful marriage if they just don't divorce?
No, that wouldn't always meet the criteria for successful marriage.
So,
right? But hang on, by the same logic, you would have to agree then that not every time women want to get divorced, it's unjustified.
True. I agree.
So if that's the case, then you have an equal wash there. So the idea here is, what do we want for a stabilized society, which makes sense, right? For men to have maximum happiness. It seems to be marriage.
Right, but you're switching it back to what's in it for society, and I keep trying to stick to what's in it for the individual.
Men are society.
Right.
Men run society.
Do you really think that a 20% failure rate, where a woman could potentially really ruin his life for 18 years. I mean, I've talked to a good percentage.
Well, what failure rate's acceptable? 1%?
I think one is too many. When you have a quarter of men raising kids that aren't theirs,
That's just utopian.
I think one time that happens is too many.
That's utopian. That's literally utopian thinking.
Well,
so if there's ever a case that a man can get got, then you would just recommend it. Okay, it's so silly. That's utopianism. That's impossible. It's like saying no men should ever drive cars because they might get in a wreck. It's like, it's going to happen.
I wouldn't say that's the same, because I would say a car wreck, it is not likely that you're going to be enslaved to that car for 18 years. And I think maybe
the damage it does to you for 18 years.
I just have a different point of view, because I've seen men on the brink of suicide, Andrew, and I've seen men I've told you this story before. One of the worst marriage divorce stories I ever saw was a guy that took pretty much your advice. Okay.
Which was what? What's my advice?
What you say. He waited till marriage. He met a girl in a Latin Catholic mass church.
Yep.
He had the temperament. He thought she was the right person. And it was actually really difficult. She took his kid. She was actually Eastern European. So she was Eastern Europe. So she was actually raised to be a wife, and she came to the US. He met her in California. Yeah. And she stole the kid and took him back. She won custody. She took him back. And he spent $300,000 trying to get her back. He went into a war zone trying to get his kid.
Yeah.
Now the kid is like 6. He hasn't seen him in years. The kid doesn't recognize him, and he speaks Russian. How is he happy?
But it's
easy. I think it's easy maybe for you to like wave it away and just say, well,
I'm not waving it away. That's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
Men, it doesn't matter. Like, don't even think about that risk. But what I've seen.
No, think about that risk.
Right. But you're saying, but do it anyway. And I'm saying I can't tell you what to do, because that is an astronomical risk that I understand if you as a man don't want to take that. I completely understand.
Yeah.
Another issue.
So here's the alternative.
Can you let me finish? So another issue too is like the waiting till marriage. I mean, you go on monologues too a lot too.
Not long, because you cut in every 5 seconds.
The other thing is 1 out of 3 women have STDs. So you could
of sex work.
No, not necessarily.
We can look at the height of the promiscuity. The sexual revolution wasn't even close. Yeah,
but a lot of normal women have STDs too. They do.
They always have.
True.
So do men. They usually get it from men during promiscuous sex as well.
Right, but that's back to the what about the men though? We're talking about.
It's not what about the men. I'm just giving an accounting for this, for how this works. STDs would be a good idea for not having promiscuous sex, but if the idea is like, because some men are going to have catastrophic results and we can never mitigate that. I don't care what society you're in, ever. You're not going to be able to mitigate that some men are going to have catastrophic results. That instead they should use women, basically, and women them for purely sexual hedonistic needs. If that's the case, then the very ideology of like, look at all these STDs, that explodes under that same ideology. That's like silly. It's counterproductive.
Well, under your strategy, they could marry a woman with herpes.
Under your strategy, they're going to get herpes anyway.
Not really, because if you wear a condom, it's less than 1% of men that.
Then why are they exploding?
They're exploding because men and women aren't wearing condoms. But if you wear a condom, it's not the likelihood of you getting something, especially as a guy, is pretty low.
So men are just stupid, don't know how to wear condoms, or?
I mean, some men, they really should.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. I think that,
to be honest, I mean, a lot of guys, they don't.
What's happened is promiscuity, especially in the sex industry, where STDs are 10 times higher, has now been gravitating towards women's bedrooms on OnlyFans and things like this. They have a continuous chain of men who come in they're promiscuous with, and this has exploded the STD rate. And by the way, I can prove this because in every Western nation where sex work can be done from the home, you see these explosive rates generally in the areas where there's the most amount of sex workers, it gravitates out.
You think it's all sex work? It's not the women in college?
No, there's always been STDs, of course, that have been in the general public. I'm not talking about the accounting for the explosion in them.
Right, but you don't think it's common on, say, college campuses for STDs to go around?
Of course, but that's always been the case on college campuses.
Right. But saying that's always, I'm trying to operate in today, not the past, right?
Yeah, but I'm trying to give you a prism so that, because you're acting like this stuff is new, or that that risk mitigation is somehow new. This has always been the case that men had to mitigate risk when it came to marriage. You're only talking about the selection of, well, you could get really fucked by the courts, which is true, and that the courts are biased towards women, which is true. I'm giving prescriptors for how we begin the process of changing those things. Whereas what you do is you act as though these are brand new societal issues when they're actually not brand new societal issues.
No, I operate in today, so I try to focus on what's going on now. And
yeah, but can't you look to the past for prescriptors?
Right, but why not if the past, not if it doesn't matter?
It matters.
Okay, well,
or we can't get prescriptors. We can't get prescriptors of the future unless we look at societies which worked.
Right, but societies that don't exist today, that are different than today. I have to operate in I have to operate. I'm not a lawmaker, so I have to operate in the society we have today.
Yeah, you're not a lawmaker, you're an influencer. So you to influence people into lawmaking, or influence people towards laws, or you to influence them towards better behaviors, or things like this.
I think influencers that think they have that kind of sway and power are just as delusional as the women that think that they're going to get a man that makes like $5 million a year. That's my belief.
Yeah. So
you may you may think different. That's just what I think. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party seem to disagree. They're buying up influencers left and right all over the country, and it seems to be swaying a lot of localized elections. So I think influencers must have some kind of, I don't know, influence, right? Otherwise, why is it that the political arms of the various parties are doing everything they can to get them under their wig? So ultimately, I think when we're talking about your kind of descriptive world, again, I don't even disagree with a lot of these descriptions, but if we apply Pearl Davis's descriptions, which do sound more prescriptive, why should men do X, right?
Well,
it's like, okay, well, here's why. And then you say, but here's the risk for that. Okay, I agree there's the risk for that. Well, now what? I don't know. Is that it? Just like, I don't know?
If a product is good, then people are lining up to buy it. And so what you're doing is you're saying, no, there's no risk. Men are lining up to buy this, but the stats just don't say that. They don't. So if you're right, then
well, first of all, I reject your scripts.
If you're right, then the marriage rate will go up, and traditionalism will return. I hope you're right.
Yeah, but don't you understand that the positive of your framing is completely rejected by me? I'm not one of these guys who's making these crazy advocations for, hey, bro, just take the plunge, bro, and hopefully things will work out, bro. That's the Con Inc. guys who are saying, oh, this is all men's fault, this and that. I'm talking about prescriptive mitigations to try to fix the issues in marriage, the very thing men are screaming that they want more than anything. And you just say, well, kind of just do what you want. Here's the information. Good luck. It's like, okay, you can do that. But then at what account can you ever criticize any of those guys in the Con Inc. party who give prescriptions? How can you ever do that if you don't give a counter prescription?
Well, if their prescriptions are leading men to their death and men are 9 times more likely to commit suicide because they don't warn them, I can criticize them.
Then what should they do instead, Pearl?
What
should they do instead, Pearl?
I think they should make an informed decision. Because I think they should make an informed decision. Why is a man immoral if he doesn't choose to get married?
That's not immoral.
Okay, so then why are you arguing with me?
Yeah, well, the argument here is about men's happiness and what they get, right? Not about whether or not it's moral if they get married or not. I'm not saying it's immoral for men to not get married.
I could be, okay, then what's the disagreement? Then why do you care?
The disagreement is on the prescription of why it is
that
I
didn't give a prescription.
Marriage, well, here's the disagreement. I'm trying to explain it to you. I'm not saying that it's immoral for men to not get married. I am interested in the happiness and longevity of men and their overall wellness, well-being, and health in the society I have to live in, because I count on them to provide the security. I count on them to provide all luxury. I count on them to build all infrastructure. And so if men aren't doing well, none of us are doing well. And so if we're going to associate these problems, and Con Inc. says, well, just take the plunge because society continues to go, and Pearl Davis says men can just do whatever the fuck they want, then it's like, well, then how do you criticize anything prescriptively? How do we get anywhere prescriptively? It makes no sense to me.
Do you think men should do what you want?
I think that if prescriptively you move towards the type of society I advocate for, I think, yes, the wellness of men would do way better.
So men should do what you want and not what they want.
No, they should do prescriptively what's best for men.
Okay.
That's not, now, that is true that I'm aligned with that, but that's not doing what I want. That's doing what's in their best interest.
Okay. So men should listen to you and not what they want for their life, but what you want for their life.
Well, what did I just say? I just said that
according to
what
the
they want
stats
for their life is happiness, and if I want for my life happiness also, and if we have a combined belief on the prescriptive things that would make us happy, then that's what men, including me, should move towards.
So you're saying I read these stats, I read these studies. Now do what I say because I read these studies.
Go on, and Pearl Davis is doing the same thing. I read these stats and studies, and everything's really bad for men. So, I mean, if you want to, if you want to take the plunge of 20%, you might get fucked here. And is it really worth it? I'm not sure it's worth it.
I say you're a man. It's your house. You get to do what you want in your house. That's out of order. I'm not going to tell a man what to do.
Well, you're not telling them what to do, but you can still. Isn't it true that you can offer up prescriptions in society which are good for society and good for men without telling men that they need to do those prescriptions? Like, hey, prescriptively, if we did X, that might be really good for men. That doesn't mean you're telling men what to do.
I can give my opinion if somebody asks, but that's not my job. I'm here to, did you lower the volume a little bit? I don't know why I can hear him less now. No? Wait, could you talk again?
Testing.
Could you turn up my mic or my headphones just a little bit? Sorry. But then you wouldn't say you should do it. You would say you could. But once you get into then you're saying this is what you should do.
I would say any prescription
that's
going to be good for the
better.
overall health of men, they should be moving towards that. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so if it was moving towards the overall health of men, it would be an easy sell and men would do it.
And that, well, no, not necessarily. Men have gone along with lots of different things, which were an easy sell because they were misled or they had bad information or collectively from the society. Like, here's an easy one. Men go off to war. They go off to literal war when they get drafted. And that has been an easy sell, but it definitely was not good for men.
What is this? I think it might be here. Sorry. It's buzzing now a little bit. Okay, sorry. So you're saying that men, but men in reward for protecting the country, they got a family that actually stayed together. But today that's not the norm.
No, they didn't. In the Vietnam War, they didn't get that. That's not the case. They got that maybe post-World War II. They weren't getting it after Korea. They weren't getting it after Vietnam. They're drafted for both wars. They weren't coming home to a family. They're coming home getting spit on, literally spit on.
All right,
and the thing is yes, men can be tricked collectively into doing things that are really bad for men's health. But the idea here that we should not be prescriptively
do you think they
trying,
did it because it was an adventure? That's probably why, right?
No, they didn't just want to go on an adventure. They did it for honor.
Yeah. I would say at one point society rewarded them for it. Now white men are the least likely to be in the military, or it's the lowest numbers in years. Men are dropping out of the military because they don't see what's in it for them anymore. And it's interesting. I think this
that's because there's no honor.
I think it's an interesting sell what you're trying to do. Meet the women, wait till marriage for a woman that's not, pay a higher price than a previous guy. And you'll be married for life. I hope, men, if you want to.
That's not. So this is this is very.
If you guys want to, if you guys want to do that,
Pearl framing.
If you want to do,
that's not actually what I said. I'm offering only an alternative to black pill. And what am I saying?
Okay.
The same thing you are. Men should be gravitating towards things which are good and healthy for men. Men are gravitating towards families because they want them.
But
if they didn't want them, they wouldn't be having them.
Who has more information on what makes a man happy? You or him? An individual man watching your stream.
This will be trivially true about any human being on Earth.
So each man has more information to make decisions in his life than you do, right?
Well, no, that's not always the case. But I would say, generally speaking, people tend to think or know what makes them happier than some guy they don't know. Sure.
Yeah. So I don't know if I want to use. Can I use you as an example but not say your name? Can I use you? Yeah, I can. Okay. So my producer's watching now, right?
Yeah.
He's listened to me talk. Now he's listening to you for the first time, and he's hearing your strategies for marriage, right? Who has more information on how he should make a decision moving forward in his relationships, you or him?
Yeah, so obviously him, but I'll also have more information probably on what's better for his relationships than you, because I'm a man.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
But so who should make the decision? Should he listen to your advice, or should he listen to himself, what he thinks is best?
Well, so I would say that you also have to take into account that there's social responsibilities and honor that men have, duties that they're supposed to gravitate towards. There are actual duties men have to gravitate towards.
This is just like nagging the duty. Okay. Well, what does he get?
You don't think men don't have duties?
What does he? I mean, why would you do something?
Like men should just do nothing, or what?
Right, well, why should they work hard for a society that doesn't reward them? I have no problem.
I think that society should reward men for hard work.
But it doesn't.
Yeah, but it does. It does actually reward men for hard work. It doesn't always reward men for hard work with a family, though. That's not the reward societies have ever given men. Men have to procure their own stake for families. Men have rewarded
military members the last 50 years? They have?
Yes.
Sure. Then I'm
Society has rewarded military members over the last 50 years. Yes.
Really?
There's more. During the Iraq War, for instance, there was a lot of honor that came back to the uniform. And then post that, now there's less.
More men have committed suicide than all of the last... more soldiers have committed suicide in the last 50 years than all of the world wars combined.
Yeah.
So society rewarded them?
No, that's not a social societal issue of society trying to punish them. Right. Iraqi war veterans were not getting spit on like Vietnam war veterans. Some of them maybe, but it wasn't the same type of contextual information.
I guess if society isn't spitting on them.
Here's why this happened. This happened because of the tour. So it used to be that soldiers were cycled out after one tour. What happened during the Iraq war and Afghanistan wars, they were going back for 4, 5, 6 tours. They were completely broken. This was something the military has recognized multiple times. Society itself, though, demanded that these wars be stopped. Ultimately, they demanded it. That's why they put Trump in. When you're talking about the social duties and responsibilities of men, it is a fact of the matter they do have them. The idea here, though,
do you think that
this means that society rewards men with a family?
Monologue, is it going to end? Is it going to end? Okay, you're doing that to me, so I gotta,
Yeah. Fair enough.
So, do you think that men have been respected the last 50 years and honored in society?
No, that's not. I didn't say that. Okay. We're talking about the military, a specific example.
Okay, but in general, do men get respect?
No, I think that men have been completely and totally disrespected as a bygone pieces of garbage.
Right.
The entire idea here is to try to change that.
Right. But
right?
you would understand the rationale for a guy that just says fuck it, right? Because society doesn't reward him.
So here we can maybe come to some agreement. Do I understand the rationale? Yes. Oh yes, I understand the rationale completely. Does that mean that that's good for men though? No.
Okay.
And clearly it does. It clearly can't be, because you say it can't be by your own logic.
But you know what's best for an individual.
No. You actually just gave the prescriptions. Pretty great. You just said, well, so society is shitting all over men, and that's really bad for men, right, Andrew? Yeah, I want to change that. And you go, but wait a second. So you think you know what's best for men? It's like, well, if we both agree that society shitting on men is bad, then it appears we both think we know what's best for men. That society shouldn't shit on them. They wouldn't like that, right?
Right, but I don't predict it'll stop. I wouldn't predict that it would change.
Well, I can predict it'll never stop if we don't try to do anything about it.
Well,
I can make a 100% prediction it'll never stop if we don't try to do anything about it.
Then run for office, right? Go ahead.
Well, you don't just need to run for office. What you need to do is influence people who are in office. That's the main thing. People forget. See, NGOs and it's the lobbyists who ultimately are going to be able to make these influences for change.
All right. In the next year, what changes can I expect policy-wise?
Probably not much.
Okay. So my producer has to make a decision in the next year. What's he going to do?
Yeah. So
he has to make. Should he look at the history? Yeah. Should he look at what might happen in the future?
Yeah. So if your producer is going to make a decision on marriage in the next year, I'd give him the same advice any rational human being would ever have. Great. You want to get married? Make sure all of your risks are as mitigated as you can possibly make them, so that you can move towards family like men have always historically done and are now getting much better at. And then on top of that, Mr. Producer, you can expect within the next few years that you're going to start seeing even more changes in the marriage court. And here's my proof. the number of kids living with their fathers has quadrupled from 68 to 2020 due to men's rights advocacy groups. That seems to be good for men. They can get access to their kids. Quadrupled, Pearl.
What do you think's going to affect my producer or someone similar to him more? Do you think you saying like these stats, or do you think what he's seen in real life is going to affect his decision making and what he thinks more?
People generally, I think, intuitively go off of experience first, and then they mitigate. But they often mitigate experience when they start looking for answers for why things they've experienced have sucked. So like, bad thing happens, and I hate it. And so intuitively, I don't want anything to do with this again. But then you start looking for answers for why bad thing happened.
You listing stats and shaming men is not going
no, I'm
to
doing
make.
It. You're shaming men.
I'm not.
Yeah, that's a shaming tactic. I'm telling you.
And is not going to make men want to get married, and it's not going to make them not believe what they have seen.
How is it shaming men to tell men I care a lot about men's health more than anything else and would really like to see influencers start moving towards prescriptions so that they live happier lives? How in the fucking world could you ever say in a million years that that's a shaming tactic?
Okay, sure, you're not. Sure.
I mean, how? Like, how do you make that step? Now, I would say, on the other hand,
you're shaming men for you shame men for sleeping around.
It's impossible, guys. You're way too fucking stupid to understand the system.
You shame men for not living the way that you want them to live.
No,
I'm not
shaming.
I'm
not telling men they have to live how I want to live.
You call them degenerates. You call them degenerates.
Well, yeah, if they're gays, they're degenerate, aren't they, Pearl?
Okay, well, no, you call them degenerates if they sleep around.
Yeah, if they're highly promiscuous, I consider that to be degeneracy.
Okay,
but
so
I still, even for those degenerate men, want the best for health and resources for those men
so
too.
What about men that just want to live with a woman for 10 years and have sex first? Are they
terrible idea? Horrible idea
degenerate?
by every single metric. But, totally.
Okay, but,
totally degenerate. And it's a terrible idea.
Sure. But a better idea is to wait till marriage and give a woman the ultimate honor that you could ever give a woman. And she
in the comparison of those two situations,
she doesn't even have to have sex with you to get it.
They don't have to have sex with you if you live with them either. What's your point?
Well,
like they don't have to have sex in that situation either. And when you're looking at the fact that living with a woman long term without marrying her, you end up anyway with these ideas of like common law marriage. You can still get taken in the ringer on that. The other alternative there is that the children are generally going to have terrible outcomes. Between those two choices, absolutely, I would prescribe that marriage is better than those. Even bad marriage would be better than those.
Okay, yeah. So again, that's a tough sell. I mean, maybe the men in the audience will buy it, right?
No, I think that mine was the good sell. So I think the shaming tactic comes from the idea of you saying,
but you're the
this
one
is how
calling.
I hear it. What I hear is men are so fucking stupid they can't mitigate their own risk. So just check out, guys. You're too fucking dumb. And I think the opposite. I think men are super fucking smart, and we can definitely do something inside of the societal social field to change the conditionals for men.
Who has more legal power, men or women?
In which context? At the mercy of the system or at the mercy of changing the system?
All right. Who do politicians cater to, men or women?
They generally cater toward women and children's needs first, yes.
Who does the legal system cater to, men or women?
Generally speaking, it's going to cater to the weaker sex and children, yes.
Okay. Who does the media cater to? Men or women?
Yeah, same. I can just answer yes to all the institutions doing this.
Okay, so if an individual man is going to outsmart this billion-dollar system.
So they're too dumb to do it?
I would say they don't have power. I wouldn't say dumb, but I don't think
But don't men collectively have powers to overthrow entire systems via force doctrine?
Okay, but I mean, when you're talking in the abstract, that's like easy.
No,
right?
I'm talking in the instruct.
I want to go specific. So my producer, he's listening, right? So he's gonna make a decision in the next 5 years about what he wants to do with his life, right?
Yeah.
And so he's listening. Now, what power does he have if a woman throws an abuse claim at him? What can he really do?
Yeah, so he can do the same thing that men have always done during any sort of claim for abuse. He can mitigate risk. You can do this via security cameras. You can do this via the Pence rule. You can do this via all sorts of various rules that men have instituted to protect themselves from false allegations of abuse. If you're talking about inside of long-term relationships, that's really hard for women to prove. Really hard for women to prove. Even marital rape is hard for women to prove. Those are not the things which men are getting tossed into jail for. They're getting tossed into jail and getting their lives ruined for false allegations, generally from strangers, not from women they're with long term.
That's just simply not true, because abuse allegations are brought up all the time in family court because it's based on a preponderance. It's not. You don't need evidence, so they can just say things. I mean, I worked on one case where she threw a rape allegation from the first night they met, and then 10 years later, she said that he raped her. Court took it.
The case that
she won custody.
Listen, it is the case inside a family court that women will make up all sorts of shit for the custody of children. Nobody's disputing that. What I'm talking about specifically is the charges of abuse, which generally happen. So in family court, what happens is most women are filing for divorce, not under an abuse claim, but under irreconcilable differences. And the amount of them who are reporting abuse in the relationships actually is not nearly as high as you're presenting. The amount of men who are high status who get their lives completely fucking destroyed by false allegations from strange women is extremely high, though, usually in the workplace, if they're in any way connected in the workplace. Or if it is the case that they're a high status man who goes on a date with a woman, that's when you start to see those accusations completely level men. I'm not saying that doesn't happen in the family court.
It does happen. It does happen in family court, correct?
Yeah.
So women can throw and what can he do if he gets a very feminist judge?
Yeah, so he's going to get fucked. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so do you think he makes him stupid if he gets fucked? Like he's automatically stupid?
I think that but what's the prescription? The prescription would be to begin the process of changing family courts so that you don't have the feminist judges that still operate under the old rules of immediately goes to
tick. My producer, he's got to make a decision this year. He's got to. What's he going to do? He's going to do now. Should he bet that Andrew Wilson's going to fix the laws for him?
Should he stay alone for the rest of his life? Because if he ever gets married, the woman's for sure going to give him an abuse claim and throw him in prison.
I didn't say that.
Is that going to be good for his happiness?
I didn't say that.
I mean, that sounds like a terrible prescription. If you listen to me,
I didn't say that. But the way.
So let's compare it.
The thing
Andrew
is,
Wilson, mitigate all risk possible.
Okay, so
and then Pearl Davis. Good luck, you're fucked.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
that's the distinction.
But you
right?
see what you're doing is you're making it seem like men have two options, which is sleep around or be married, right? That's kind of I don't know if that's what you mean, but that's what you're making it seem like.
No.
But there's a lot of people that are in like 2-year relationships with a woman.
Sure.
There's a lot of people that date casually, right? They just go on dates. They might sleep with 1 or 2, maybe more than that, women. And
well,
then
that sounds like casual sex to me.
Right, but then they pick their favorite and they get into a relationship and then eventually get married. I mean, I'm sure, and I'm not trying to go personal, but I'm sure most people dated before like they met their previous like partners, their wife, right?
Sure.
So
yeah.
And so it's not really one or the other, right? It's not like degenerates and not. So when does someone become a degenerate? Like when does that line, like when are they beyond the point of return?
Yeah,
body count?
So when you hit this idea of like
is it like
fallacious
any sex
fallacious
outside of marriage?
Yeah. When you hit a fallacious threshold fallacy, like when does a thing become the thing, right? We know that there's degenerates. Can I give you the exact number of dicks a guy has to suck before he's... Well, that would be just one, I guess. Do I have to give you the exact number of chicks a dude fucks before he's considered societally a degenerate? I don't think I need to. I think that's pretty intuitive. We know what degeneracy looks like. You don't think so?
I mean, I know.
Okay, so
I don't
guy...
say...
Okay, so here. I'll just pose it to you if you don't think so.
I mean, there's a lot of guys...
A guy is in a gangbang. He's in a gangbang, right? With it's him and 3 of his friends, and they're all fucking one chick. Is he a degenerate?
I mean, what is he? Is he doing those every week the rest of his
life?
No,
he just decided to go in and do it, right?
I don't tell men what to do in the bedroom. I think I prefer the don't ask, don't tell. Like I just don't. You can do what you want.
Yeah, well, I mean, I prefer not to have STDs floating out in society because people are getting in gangbangs in their privacy of their home, and the libertarian idea of like we're not going to govern it.
But that doesn't affect you. How does that?
Yeah,
affect
it affects
you?
me.
How does that affect you?
I live in this society. How does it not affect me?
You don't have an STD, right?
I have children. I have cousins.
Correct.
I have family. I have all sorts of
And that's actually
people.
what I was trying to get at is conservatives want men to save society for their children. And that's the point. You don't ask what's in it for them.
Wait a second.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
And that's the point.
Don't you want us to save society for men?
I think people need to make decisions based on the information they have about their own life.
Yeah. So
I am not. I'm going to finish and then you can go.
Go ahead.
I am realistic, and I think it's better to be prepared than be blindly optimistic. So, things I would personally prepare for. Your kids are probably gonna your kids will probably go to school with women that do OnlyFans. That is probably going to happen.
Yep.
And it's better to prepare and have a plan than
to try to stop it.
I don't think it's effective to stop it.
Oh,
I don't think it's
well,
effective.
I think it is effective to stop. Not only that, again, the framing is incorrect.
Because
it's not that conservatives are trying to.
Sorry.
Conservatives are not trying to save. Maybe the TPUSA conservatives are trying to save a society for the sake of their children. But even if that was the case, good, that's good. But that aside, no. What I'm trying to do is save men in society. Men. I think men, the patriarchy, is the most necessary component to society's functioning. And so if you want to have men who are in a patriarchal role, who are governing society, then you're going to have to prescriptively move men towards that. That's the only way to do it.
Can a man?
So ultimately, it's like, hang on.
Okay, go ahead.
My turn now. So ultimately, from your social bastardization of this whole thing, your framing continuously goes back to, well, conservative men want to save society for their children. Yeah. And good.
But what does the average man get out of that? And that's the point.
They get a society to live in.
Right. So I just want to know when these changes are going to happen.
Do you think men live in bubbles in a forest, or do you think that they live in societies which are governed by social relationships?
Okay, so when are these changes going to happen? When?
Yeah, but answer my question first. Do you think that men live in isolated bubbles, or they live in a social dynamic society filled with interpersonal relationships?
The average man doesn't have many friends. He's 3 or less, I think.
Yeah, but they have friends and they have family members, and they still have to engage in society. You have to go buy a fucking cheeseburger, right? They got to go buy a cheeseburger and not get pickles on it because the fucker doesn't speak
every
English.
stat shows that men are actually checking out of society. So
yeah, that's bad though. Right? That's not good. We want to change that, right?
Right, but I would say it's pragmatic because they're realizing there's
pragmatism's bad.
Okay, well, I hope isn't a strategy, and what I think you're kind of trying to do is sell hope.
No,
and I think it's better
to. The pragmatic
I think
argument that you're making right now is guess what? No men would ever be in pain ever again if they all shot themselves in the head either, would they, Pearl?
That
would be the ultimate form of pragmatism.
I don't really think that's the same, but hey,
that's just pragmatism taken to its logical conclusion.
So
if you want to stop all suffering of men, they all go bye-bye. They're all dead. Now there's no more suffering of men. That's just silly, right?
I said men look at the facts and make a decision. And you can make a decision for yourself. I'm here to report the facts, and that's the same as shoot yourself. Okay.
No, that's not. No. You're making
totally
a conflation.
Fine. Hey,
you're all you just
wait for the born again virgin, guys. That's totally going to get you.
Nobody made that
best
prescription.
way for. That's what you said
You're
earlier.
just lying now. It's just reframing.
That is what
reframing and total bullshit. Never said, guys, wait for the born again virgin. In fact, I'm the one wrecking those fucking broads. What are you talking about?
Okay.
The thing I've never made any such prescription. It's always reframing.
Can I edit it here?
Because the thing is,
can I edit it where I asked you? I'm going to edit it earlier because you did say that. The way you would suggest men dated was to wait till marriage, even if the woman wasn't a virgin. You did say that.
Yeah, has nothing to do with born again virgins. It's just that's your pragmatism of a social mitigation for bad thing happening. That's it. It's all a matter of mitigation of risk. The idea that I said that you need to wait for a born again virgin, fucking absurd. Never said it. The reason you have to reframe this is because
what should I call them? Okay.
I'm advocating. Hang on.
Right.
I'm advocating
wait for a woman that gave it to other men
advocating
for free?
for men's happiness, men's rights, men's health. And the only thing you can think of to do is to consistently attempt to reframe it into somehow I'm telling men to take some plunge with some fucking skank born again virgin. Fuck that. I'm talking about the mass mitigation of risk and the change to a system.
All right, guys. I know she slept with your ex-boyfriend. Okay. I know she slept with her ex-boyfriend.
Here comes the straw man.
I know she. Okay. should men wait till marriage? You said yes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, generally yes.
Even if
They
the
have the best
woman, even
outcomes,
if the
yes.
woman isn't a virgin.
If it is the case that you want men to do whatever they want, then if man really likes the woman,
don't
if
do
the man
whatever you
really
want. Do what
likes
Andrew. Do what Andrew says. Do
Yeah,
it.
so
No.
if it is the case,
My
that the
producer,
man
he's taking notes
really
now. He's gonna follow your plan.
Yeah. So if the man really likes the woman,
Okay.
and men should do whatever it is that they want, right? Then under your feasible system, a man should just fuck a chick because he feels like it, right? It's like that's untenable. One and two. Yes, is it okay for a man to hold his own integrity intact and still be in love with a woman who slept with a man before and have good outcomes? Yes, of course it is.
So now you're shaming men for wanting to sleep with women outside of marriage. And that's what I said. You're the one shaming men because you're the one saying that they're degenerates if they, even though statistically,
outcomes for men who maintain virginity and marry women with low body counts or virgins have really good outcomes.
I am super, you know what? You'd have to show me the study.
I named it for you earlier.
I am super sure that when the woman is not a virgin and the man is, that is a recipe for disaster.
Listen, you're right that the risk
I know
increases,
I'm right.
But it's still mitigated. It's still mitigated by the fact that if they have a lower body count, within the threshold of 1 to 3, right, it does mitigate risk significantly. Is it always best to have a virgin? Sure. But guess what? Unfortunately, in the world that we live in, that's probably not what you're going to get. You're probably not going to get a virgin who's a man either, but you can still mitigate all kinds of risk.
What
I
does
don't
he
understand.
get?
Why do you think
What
you can't
does he
mitigate
get?
risk?
What does he get? What does he get? He gets.
So one more time, I'll explain what men get out of this. Even though you keep asking the question, I answer it. They get what they've always
you have such
gotten.
bad answers.
Okay.
You're like, here's a bad deal, guys.
Yeah.
You got a bad deal before.
Yeah,
here's another
you're giving
bad
them a bad deal. Not only that, here, let me ask you this. What have men ever gotten?
Men, you've always gotten
one thing men have ever gotten.
You've always gotten it bad, so you should continue to accept
the question,
it bad.
Pearl. Don't dodge, Pearl. What have men ever gotten?
Men,
Pearl?
Translation, men.
You're not answering. No, notice audience, she's not answering.
Notice audience, he won't. Notice he's not answering either.
I did answer. I answered 15 times. Now here's my question to you. After I gave you the answer, what have men ever gotten?
Okay, 100 years ago, average 6 to 8 children. I believe this is off the top of my head.
So you only care about caring about children, not about men.
Wait, I'm not done.
That's caring about children, not about men, Pearl.
He got I'll finish.
Okay,
he got a virgin wife who had been with nobody else, who stayed with him for a lifetime.
Wait, I thought that women's behavior was ingrained and that they were always fucking men, according to you, and that the men just didn't know it.
They might have been.
Well,
but
at least it sounds like a
if women did at the time, it was not as widely known as it is today. If women did, they may not have. I wasn't there. I'm not going to speak.
I know, but that's what you said last time. You said no, they were still screwing around even then.
Well,
it's just behind the backs and nobody knew.
Well, I mean, there's genealogy records that show that women did step out. Like, there's people that have done like genealogy records, and like a lot of times it was the neighbor or something like that. I'm not going to go back and forth about 100 years ago because
what did men ever get, Pearl? What did they ever get?
But that doesn't matter. And that's the whole point.
Right.
You keep going back to 100 years ago. I live in the now. I don't care what happened 100 years ago.
Asked me this question. You said, Andrew,
I know, but you keep deflecting. You keep deflecting and bringing up the past. You're like a woman bringing up the past.
I'm just
making you
answer the same question that I'm answering.
Who cares about 100 years ago?
Andrew, you're not giving me any answers. Here's my answer.
Okay.
Give me one, Pearl.
Okay.
What did they get? What did they ever get?
Right, I don't care about 100 years ago.
That's right.
I care about
nothing. You got nothing.
I care because you're talking about the past. What do they get today, Andrew? What do they get?
They get the same thing they've always gotten, which is a family, the thing that seems to make men the most happy. Right. Unless you can name something else that men were getting before that, and I'm all ears.
Do women stay today? Do women stay today? On average, do women stay today?
At lesser rates than they used to.
Okay.
By for sure they do.
Okay.
But if you're asking what men get, that's a different question.
But they don't get it. They don't get it.
Yeah, but a lot of men do get it. That's a lie. They do get it.
No, they don't.
A lot of men do. Yeah, I just gave you the stats. And by the way, if you're talking about, again, even when it comes to guardianship, it's quadrupled. If you're talking about marriage in a Christian sense, 25% divorce, low body counts, even less.
Are more people getting married today or less?
Less. I'm glad. Less secularists are getting married. Good. Fuck them.
Okay.
Fuck them. I don't care if they get married or not.
Right,
bastards.
but this isn't a religious channel, right? You're trying to
I'm not
peddle.
saying it's a religious channel.
You're trying to peddle your religion, right? And that's kind of
I'm trying to peddle outcomes. Why do I care if secularist men who are hedonistic want to get married or not? It's irrelevant. The future belongs to those who reproduce, and it's not going to be those who don't get married because they go, well, the thing is that I don't feel like I'm getting anything that men haven't always gotten for this. And the one thing you could name, same thing I could name, they get children. When I said it, you said, well, Andrew, that's you promoting
who do the kids belong
good for
to?
kids.
Who do the kids belong
Stop,
to?
Pearl, my turn.
Who do the kids belong to?
What you do, yeah,
who
my
do
turn.
The kids belong? You don't like the answer.
It's my turn.
Who do the kids? Who do the kids belong to?
You won't even let me answer. So
who do the kids belong to? It's
you're
a
just
one-word
reframing.
answer.
Stop reframing. Let me finish.
Answer.
Let me finish the point.
It's a one-word answer. Who do the kids belong to?
I wasn't done talking before you interjected with your dumb opinion.
Who do the kids belong to?
Yeah, Pearl, one more time.
Can you answer? Can you do it?
Yeah.
Can you do it?
Yeah. It goes to the state. Right now, the children belong to the state. Yeah, that's terrible. That sucks. But what it meant,
so what do men get out of it?
The children belong to the state before they belong to the
spurg.
king.
Like
they belong to the king.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you say it's a spur because you cut me off every 5 seconds.
What? Yeah, because you don't have a good answer. They don't get anything out of it.
I gave you the same answer you gave me, which is hilarious.
Right.
By the way, same answer.
They don't get a family because women divorce.
Pearl, can you answer my question? Don't spurg.
What's your question?
Okay.
Can you not bring up history?
Pearl, can you answer my question? Don't spurg, Pearl. Stop spurging. Stop spurging. I'm just going to answer the question. Let me ask it before you start spurging. What have men ever gotten, Pearl?
I don't care.
Ever.
I don't care about history.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
He has to. Men today have to make decisions off of the information today, Andrew. It doesn't matter what they got. It's like, what do they get today?
Yeah, they get what they've always gotten.
Okay. Well, if you want to keep convincing men to wait for born again virgins, it's totally fine. I hope.
I never. Sure. Can you ever tell me where I told any man ever to wait for a born again virgin?
Okay.
Why do you keep making that shit up? Like why?
What do you want? What do you want to? Okay, you want men to wait for non-virgin women, correct?
No, I never said that either. I'm talking about the mitigation of risk.
You said that twice. You said that twice.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You can clip it, right? But I'll counter clip. You won't like what you see because I didn't say that. I'm talking about the mitigation of risk. And when you're talking about the mitigation of risk, it still is actually less risky. Yes.
Right.
Less risky.
I want to
Does
go
that
back
mean it's
to
optimal? No.
So you want men
Do you understand?
to find...
Hang on.
Okay,
you understand the difference between
okay.
optimal and risk? Do you understand like risk mitigation versus optimal?
So you want men to find women with below what, a 3 body count? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, just less bodies better.
Okay, so what would you say should be the cap?
I mean, yeah, again, we're talking about risk mitigation.
Okay, sure.
You're asking for something which is a specificity, right?
Okay.
So how many, for instance, if I ask this question to you, how many women, or should you ever sleep with a woman who's fucked 100 men? Should a man ever do that?
Could you answer the question?
Yeah, but it's actually answering by showing you how fallacious the actual question is.
Okay.
So what you're saying is, Andrew, give me a threshold. I'm not here to give you the threshold. I'm here to tell you about the mitigation of risk. The less bodies, the better. Yes. Does that mean though that if you have a high body count woman, it can't work out? No. Okay. The risk is way higher.
How would men verify that?
Well, here's the thing. You asked me this last time. It was kind of funny, right? So they would verify it the same way they've always verified it. They would look at reputation. They would look at past history. They would talk with friends. And you know what's really interesting? I went back and I took a look at this. And it turns out that when men investigate these things and poignantly ask these questions, they actually do get a lot of these answers very quickly. You can actually verify this based on reputation.
Okay, so... if a woman had a past in a different city, how would the man know? Or she does something.
Especially with social media, families, big mouth sisters, big mouth friends, all the other ways that you would always verify.
But if she downloads a dating app, how would the guy know?
Yeah, I know, but you can
app.
endlessly reduce this hypothetical to the point where you can just continuously add variables. Like, what if a woman was in a forest and her plane went down? She was on a desert island for 3 days, and the news never broadcast it. Could she have slept with a man then? Yeah. But I'm saying that, again, when it comes to risk and mitigation, you can do investigation the same way women do with men, by the way, to find out their body count. And you can, in fact, suss out fairly quickly if they have a high one or not. Does that mean always?
Right.
No.
So you think most men can figure it out pretty easy, how many people she slept with?
Not how many precisely, but whether or not she slept with more than he's comfortable with or has a reputation of lying about sleeping around, which would be red flags, right?
Okay, so you think that's pretty easy. So how would you can just ask around and then men will tell him.
No, well, here's the thing about women that's great, right? They never shut the fuck up. So the greatest thing about them is they like to narrate their lives, and they like to do that especially with their friends.
Right.
And women also like their friends like to cause trouble. If you start poking around inside of a woman's female circle, they start blabbing about all kinds of shit about exes, where they've been, where they haven't been. They do this constantly.
Okay, so I want to get back to because we never finished the step by step, so I'd really like to finish that. So you want men to wait for the non-virgin women, correct?
No, I don't. No.
So you want them to sleep together?
Not my position. What's my tell me what my position is.
You said that you wanted men to wait till marriage.
I said that would be more optimal
okay.
for men's health to do X thing is not a prescription that they should do X thing. So just because it mitigates risk for you as a man to, if you fall in love with a woman, right, for her to have a low body count, that still mitigates your risk. It's not me prescribing that you go find a woman who's not a virgin and marry her. That's absurd. We're talking about the outcomes here, the pragmatic approach.
Okay, but practically, what percent of women do you think are marriageable? What percent?
That's hard to say. I don't know. I
Really?
mean, as a practicality.
This whole debate, and you didn't even think about this question at all?
No, I thought about the question, but it's a very difficult question to notate. How many exactly? Like, how many women have red hair? I don't know. How many women, have red eye? I don't know the actual answer
You've
to this.
interviewed so
but
many.
I still think that somewhere around at least 20-25% of eligible marriageable women within the element of marriageable men is a good distinct possibility they work out, because that's what the stats show me, that almost 60% of these marriages actually do work out long term if they're under the right conditionals.
Well, if they're religious, right?
No, that significantly increases it from 60%.
Okay. So you want men to find these 20. So the majority of women are not going to work, right? So you're saying to men, you might find out of 1 out of 4 women, you might get a wife.
No.
And
I was talking about the totality of the population.
Okay, fine.
But if you insert risk mitigation for marriageable women, right, then your odds actually drastically increase.
You think 1 out of 4 women have a body count under 10?
No, I didn't say that either.
But you said marriageable.
But I mean,
so
I
you
think
men should accept. Do you think men should accept more than 10?
Well, here, let's just.
Do you think men should accept more than 5? Well,
how many women have less than 3 body count?
Yeah, but I don't trust stats that women report their body count.
So now, whatever the data says, it's wrong too.
I mean, if women say it, yeah. Come on. If it's asking women about body count, come on, Andrew. You got to be realistic here.
Yeah, it looks like it's somewhere, the average of it is about 50% of women by the time they're marriageable age have less than a 5 body count. Yes, that's what I'm looking at.
You have been out of the dating market too long, Andrew.
This is the stats I'm looking at.
All right, guys.
Yeah. And now we're looking at marriageable age, which is going to be between the age of 19 and 29, right? So we're looking at marriageable age for children. Now, is that the case? I don't know if that's the case. But ultimately, who cares anyway? The truth of the matter is that even if it's damaged,
who cares about body count?
That's not what I said.
Men
who cares
should just
anyway about the
that?
topic at the topic at hand? The case of the matter is that even if none of them right now were marriageable, and they were all fucking skanks, and they all had dozens of bodies, we would still be trying to move society towards a reform of such a system and not try to black pill and nihilism all. That would be stupid. Ultimately, when we look at men's happiness, they want to get married.
Okay, fine. I want to get back to the step by step. You're happily married. Let's get to the step by step.
For what?
We're getting stuck at the waiting. So what's after that? So then you marry her.
I don't understand. What is the question you're asking me?
If you're giving a prescription, I want a detailed how to do it. So,
what you do is you get a club and you walk over to a chick and you bash her in the fucking head and you take her back to your house and you bang her, right? That's a detailed step-by-step plan. Or did you maybe want to talk about viable prescriptions rather than viable? Andrew gives dating advice, which has nothing at all to do with the conversation of moving men towards marriageability.
Yeah, but okay. So if you want men to get married, you can't tell them how to get there? Really?
That's fucking stupid. What are you talking? Why would I need to be a determining factor for every individual man on earth for a step-by-step guide of how they get married? That's fucking retarded.
Okay, well,
that's literally retarded. Why would you even ask that?
My producer's on the market, 40-year-old guy in the Midwest. What should he do? There you go.
Lose weight.
Okay, then what?
I would start with that.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding, Mister. Look, I took a cheap shot because it was funny.
Oh,
I like the guy. I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny.
I forgot you met him.
yeah. It was a look. He's skinnier than me. I'm just joking with the guy. I was kidding.
Okay,
right?
fine. Totally fine. Hit the gym. That's not bad.
I don't know what the intricacies of his life are. Every single individual is going to have a completely different.
So he should make the decision and not you, right?
No. Based on where people are in the distinctions of their life. Well, yeah, I mean, ultimately everyone's going to make their own decision, but hang on, stop. I'm going to answer your fucking question. Each individual person on planet Earth is going to have a unique set of circumstances, which, because I'm not an omnipotent God nor psychic, have no ability at all to understand in a comprehensive way, but I can still, even though I know that I'm not going to be able to tell how everybody on the road drives, I can still tell you that a stop sign fucking works.
Right, so if that's true, why do you talk like one?
Like what?
Like you talk like you're the God that knows like the best way for people to live.
I've never done that one. In fact, I just told you that I would not sit here and Google
you call people degenerates. You call people degenerates if they don't live exactly how you live.
No, I'm not asking them to live exactly how I live. That's ridiculous. Yeah. Right. I mean, yes. If you're
I just think people are tired. I just think people are tired of getting preached at, Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people are tired of you enabling the degeneracy of homosexuality because you won't give a prescription, right? Like,
what power do I have to stop them?
You have the power of the vote, the power of influence, and not only that. Here's the other thing that's so funny about this, right?
It's
like
what power do I
asking for? And when you ask for, hang on, real quick before we get to that, when you ask for these like detailed, give me a step-by-step guide. Pearl, you have a job. You're a podcaster, right? Give me a step-by-step guide for how everybody on planet Earth gets to work.
As a podcaster?
No, just as anything.
Well, I don't know how to do anything. I know how to do podcasting.
No, just how does every person on planet Earth get to work? Every one of them.
I could tell you how to do a podcaster.
Just ever. Anywhere, at any circumstance,
I wouldn't
at
say
any
that's
time.
Really the same, but okay.
It's the same. You're asking me to
fine.
write a prescription for every single individualistic circumstance on Earth for every man. That's insane.
Well, I know, but I gave you, like, what more information? You could ask more questions, and I could give you specific answers. I don't even have to use my producer.
I mean, why? But
first of all, I'm not a dating coach. If I was gonna give a quote, like if I was gonna do the podcasting one, like I would have a set of questions that I could easily give you a step by step.
Oh, so you can't tell. You can't just tell based on general circumstance, but you need to have individual experiences.
Right. So ask me a few questions, and then I can give you an example of a guy.
That's my whole point. So when you ask me for a prescription for every man on Earth, I would need to individually ask each of them a bunch of questions.
I didn't say every man on Earth, but we can do a hypothetical.
So then
we could do a hypothetical, guy. Then why don't we do a hypothetical? It should be easy. Ask me a few questions.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Again, I'm not okay. So I'm trying to answer. I'm not a dating coach. I've never said that I was a dating coach. But the thing is, I don't build highways either, but I sure know when the highway's fucked up, Pearl.
Okay. So you don't have any...
No, I've answered every single question. You don't understand how fallacious even the arguments you're making are, but how absurd the questions become when they're reduced.
It's absurd for me to, if you're giving a prescription, which I'm not, but you are, it's absurd for me to ask questions of how to get there.
No, you can ask whatever question you want, but just understand that when I equate it to, you're trying to get me to give a prescription for every man on earth, which is stated multiple times, and then you change it to, well, this one individual man, based on his unique set of circumstances, is going to change and vary from person to person to person to person. It's like asking me, what kind of car should a man drive based on his unique set of circumstances? I don't fucking know.
I mean, okay, so did you meet my dad when you were here? Did you meet him? I don't know if you did.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't.
So my dad,
know
he's
if it was
worked
him or
in.
not.
Okay, you might have maybe didn't. He's worked in software for like 30 years. He's a really pragmatic guy, right?
Yeah.
And the equivalent of what you're saying is like, if you had an opinion on his software breaking, I mean, it's cool. And then you say, oh, well, this is what you should do with the software. And he would say, okay, well, how do I do it? And then you say, well, I can't give you an answer, you know, and that like, he would just think you're an idiot.
Oh, well, really?
And it's the same.
So
it's
like,
the same.
So like, if a person was on YouTube and was like, "Hey,
I wouldn't. I know what you're gonna like. Yeah, I know what you're gonna try to equate it. So, and that's kind of what you're doing. You're saying
YouTube should have a live chat.
Saying,
oh yeah. Do you know how to put one in? No. Well, then you shouldn't tell them that they should have a live chat.
I just, in my opinion,
that is literally stupid.
My opinion is you've just kind of been out of the dating game too long.
Maybe.
And I think you would get eaten alive. Like, I think if you believe that half of women have 3 bodies, I don't know how you believe that for doing
That's
like
not
whatever.
What I said.
I know,
That's
but you're
literally
citing,
not what I said. Why do you keep framing
the body,
everything I said?
Fine. The body count stats that you cited would be so ridiculous to any guy actually.
They may
dating.
be. Listen,
right.
they
so
may be. But I literally said
I don't,
just based on what I personally glanced.
I know. But I don't even know how you believe them with like being on whatever all the time.
I didn't say I believed them.
Okay.
Like I've never said any of this.
I don't know if the best approach is I don't know if your prescription is working in the modern world. I think it's going to leave a lot of guys frustrated.
Well, that's great. Pearl, do you have any prescription?
However, I do.
Do you have any prescription at all?
As I've said, I don't tell men how to live.
No, you have none. How do you criticize
don't.
anybody for anything? You have nothing to give, nothing to offer anybody.
Well, what I do is I do report on the facts and the trends and where I see things going. I'm in the business of prediction.
Yeah, that's fine to be a newscaster.
That's what I do, right?
Yeah,
so
you can be a newscaster.
I do that.
But then how can you criticize anybody's odds,
I do the call-in shows.
Yeah.
Well, I don't criticize if you say this is a way you can do it or you could do it that way.
You mean all the things that I just said for risk mitigation?
But when you're saying if you don't live how I live, you're a degenerate.
Never happened.
That's what you insinuate. You can keep saying. You can
I will
keep
specifically say like homosexuality is degenerate.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
But if a guy chooses to live life on his own terms and not your terms, you insinuate that there's something wrong with them. If
a man decides to live a life of promiscuity and drugs, I think he's
Right.
degenerate. Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Right. But I mean, this is all kind of like, I mean, come on. Were you a virgin on your wedding day? Like, come on.
Never said I was.
Yeah,
I was also deeply steeped myself
like,
in the
on.
degeneracy of promiscuity.
I know.
It's no
but
secret.
So the way it comes across to a lot of people is I had my fun, but you can't. And that's how it's going to come off to people.
I see.
And I am somehow morally superior. Because
you've ever done anything wrong, right. So I also smoke and tell my kids not to smoke. What a scumbag! I can't believe it. Why would I do that?
Well,
why would I
totally
smoke
fine with
and
your
also
kids.
tell my kids not to? I will also tell your kids not to smoke.
It's totally fine with children.
I would tell your kids not to smoke.
But these are adult men. Like, they don't need to be nagged, right? You're like turning into a woman where you're nagging them.
Nobody's the only one who's nagging them is you, because you're trying to knock down every single societal prescriptor possible to help them.
That's not what I said. I said if men want to
try. Yes, it is.
If men want to try your way, I have no problem with that. You can try it. I don't think it's pragmatic in the modern world based on what I've seen. But who am I to tell a guy how to date?
What is pragmatic in the modern world? Can you tell me that?
I think it's tough.
That's not a fucking answer. It's not pragmatic. Right. Well, what's pragmatic? I don't know.
Well, I think most men can come up with their own solutions better than me, a YouTuber.
Then how can you make a claim that anything I say is not pragmatic when I say, well, then what is pragmatic? And you say, I don't know.
I wouldn't predict that it would work. I could give my opinion, right?
Okay, so what is that?
But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to label adult men as degenerate if they don't live according to my personal morality.
So what is the most pragmatic thing men can do? What is it?
I think the most pragmatic thing that men can do is look at the facts and make a decision based on the information he has about his own life. I think but I don't think,
You mean exactly what I have been saying the entire time?
No, but you say that you have the answers, and I don't think you do. Because I think
what answers did I say I had?
I think that the prescription you gave of a step-by-step of how to get to marriage would not work in the modern
What
dating
prescriptions
market.
did I give for that?
You gave a prescription on waiting for a woman that does not wait.
No, I didn't give that as a prescription. I only gave it as a contrast of outcome for men who go and hook up with those women and don't get married, having worse outcomes.
Yeah.
That is not a prescription that you should do the thing, Pearl, for the 30th time.
Okay, well,
it's just both things bad, one thing worse.
Right.
That's it.
But the way you're talking, it's like you're the ultimate morality police of what's good and bad.
Great. Give me a single moral prescription that I've given. A single one.
And well, you insinuated that men are degenerates for what they do in their sex lives. Like, I don't think Donald Trump's a degenerate, even though he's been married 3 times.
I think he was a degenerate.
I don't think so. I think he made the most. I don't think so.
So then I just want to make sure I got this right. Any sexual behavior men engage with, you don't believe is degenerate.
I think men are responding to the rules that women made.
Women.
So
Yes or no would be great. Yes or no would be great.
I gave you an answer.
Yes or no? Is there anything men can do sexually with people that you find degenerate?
Men
can they fuck a dog? If they fuck a dog, are they degenerate?
Men are responding to the rules that women made.
So if a man fucks a dog, can we call him degenerate?
That's just gross.
Okay, can we at least say that's degenerate?
I mean, I would just say it's disgusting. Like, that's nasty.
But not degenerate. You're still not willing to call that degenerate?
I mean, if you want to be the moral,
if a man grabs another man and fucks him up the hairy ass, that's not degenerate?
If you want to essentially act as a preacher, it's totally fine. I just think people are tired.
What's the preaching? There's no preaching. I just asked you a question. I've never preached on this channel ever. I'm still not preaching. I'm just offering real world solutions under the same very idea of pragmatism. So my question to you again, can you at least say that a man who fucks a dog is a degenerate?
That's disgusting. I'll call that a degenerate. Fine.
Okay, fucking finally. You call it, but a man who fucks another man up his hairy asshole is not.
I mean, I just don't care if he does that. That's
is that a degenerate or not?
I mean, that's gross, but
you don't know. You don't know if that's degenerate.
Look, I'm just not here. I'm not here to tell men what to do in their sex lives. I think people are tired of getting policed, and men from the time they're really young.
That some men who fuck dogs are tired of getting policed.
That's not what I'm saying. Men from a young age are shamed for their sexuality. They're from a super young age. They're told they're not they're wrong for watching porn. They're told they're wrong for wanting to have sex with women. They're told they're wrong for approaching. I don't think we need another person telling them they're wrong.
Yeah, this is great. So
they're wrong for. They're wrong.
So let me get this right.
They're
all
wrong.
The things you think have bad outcomes for
Stop
men.
interrupting me. Stop.
Yeah. All the things you think have bad outcomes for men, we should just still promote.
Andrew, I'm trying to be nice, but you're on my show. Can you stop interrupting me, please?
Yeah, you interrupt as much as I do, if not more.
Okay. I don't think that's true, but it's okay.
And by the way, who's on whose show right now, really?
You are a very big YouTuber, okay? You're very big. You're very famous, okay? So, but I just think men from a young age have been shamed for their sexuality. I don't think they really need someone else doing it. And it just comes off as a holier than thou when you're constantly calling them degenerates for responding to the environment that women made. I don't think it's pragmatic for most men to wait until they're 30 to have sex. I don't think that, and most women don't select most men until they're in their late 20s, early 30s. Go ahead.
So let me get this right, just to make sure that I have this correct. Pearl Davis, don't want to govern the behavior of men. How dare you call men who engage in sexual promiscuity degenerates, even though that would be, you governing the behavior of me, man, right? Pure hypocrisy on display, yes?
Well, I can't control it. I can't control anything they do.
Yeah, but somehow you can give a prescription that I shouldn't be doing that, but I can't give a prescription for what other people should be doing. Well, you
can. You totally can, but it's just...
But you just think people are tired of it. They're tired of men saying, this is really bad for men to do for their own health. Yes.
I would say that men are pretty tired of being nagged for their sexuality in general.
Well, I mean, that's terrible that men get told that they're not allowed to have anal sex with other men because they're degenerates. That's just terrible, bro. Somehow I think that men, though, by and large, are going to agree with me on this, that degenerate behavior and honorifics in men is something which men generally tend to steer clear of, especially on honor cultures, which is the culture that we come from.
Yeah.
I don't think that has anything to do with religion at all.
I don't think what you're selling is a good sell. So, I think
I'm selling something at least, right?
Okay.
You're not selling anything, just descriptors.
It's totally
You're like a
fine,
news
totally.
broadcast, like the Red Pill news broadcast.
I do the news, it's fine.
All right.
But yeah, I don't think men are gonna really watch this and think this is a great thing. I'm getting a ton out of this because there's no selling point. You get a ex-ho. That's like pretty much what you're saying. Or maybe a girl that's fucked 2 other dudes.
Literally not saying any of that. In fact, the opposite. In fact, I'm trying to initiate inside any sort of reform so that we can get away from that. But the second I do, you say, how dare you preach about degeneracy?
Okay.
It's like, well, wait, you can't have high body counts if they're not fucking them, Pearl.
Right.
And they can't have high body counts if they're not fucking. One thing called social shame, which leads to degeneracy, is that.
I don't think anything you're saying is very realistic. I think it kind of sounds like
you just switch between these 2 arguments. Is it that I call them degenerates, or that you think it's not realistic?
Well, I think there's 2 parts to it. The one is that you're shaming men for their behavior and their sexuality, and 2 is that I think that none of the changes that you're talking about really are realistic anytime soon, and so men have to make decisions on marriage today, and unfortunately, the value prop you're saying just isn't great. Because at the end of the day, men's kids don't belong to them. Women have more power in the media, in the state, and in society in general. And so I don't really see that men rushing to sign up to get married.
Great. So tell me again, what's the most pragmatic thing men can do right now then?
It depends on the guy. I can't speak about men as a collective.
Okay.
Yeah.
The most pragmatic thing that men can do, I don't know. Depends on the guy. Andrew, walk me through dating. Well, I don't know. It depends on the guy.
Because you were giving a prescription, but it's okay.
Not only that,
it's okay. I do have another guest coming, so I do have to go.
Yeah. But I got one last thing, just real quick. Okay. To summarize this.
I'm gonna send it. I'm listening. I'm just sending.
My interest is in men's health and men's welfare and in men's well-being. Ultimately, I've given nothing but great prescriptions towards that. You've given nothing towards that. Instead, you just offer epistemic nihilism over and over and over again. And you can't actually refute any of the points without telling me what I should be doing. It's like a performative contradiction on its face.
Okay.
Now, listen, here's the thing that's funny about this. I won't go on a monologue for a closer here. I did enjoy the conversation ultimately. And I know as heated as this got, I want my entire chat to know, and yours too, I don't have any problems with Hannah, never will. I don't have any problems with Pearl Davis, all right? I've always respected the work that she does, but sometimes this kind of like in-house slugfest is necessary and good for all sides. And I still consider her to be a friend. I know that this was a very heated debate ultimately, but I don't have any bad blood towards you. I just want to let you know that.
I have a lot of bad blood towards you. I'm never talking to you again.
That's fair.
I'm just kidding.
That's fair. Anyway,
hold on.
I think that this sort of thing is good ultimately.
Yeah. Have you debated who have you debated in the red pill space?
I don't know. A lot of them.
I was just curious. Okay, well, thanks for coming on. We have Amouranth's husbands on next. Do you know who that is?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's gonna be wild. I'll do a raid over to your channel too.
Okay.
Because that's gonna be a fucking wild one. But look, really, there's no bad blood. I know that my job is to debate my worldview the best I possibly can. Sometimes that has created conflict with people like you who are friends of mine in the past. I definitely don't want that, and I am very much a supporter of the types of work that you do with the descriptors that you put out. I think that they're golden, many of them. I've used many of those stats myself. So there's no bad blood here. Never think for a second there is.
Okay. All right. Thanks for coming.
Yep.
Do you know what? The funny thing is, I always am hesitant to use your first name because I forget yours is public.
Yeah, no.
Because so many people in this space are like not public. So I always have to like think about it first. I'm like, wait, no, I don't have to call you the Crucible. Thanks for coming, Andrew.
All right. Thank you, Pearl. Have a good day.
Okay. Bye. All right, guys. So next we got Amouranth, and then I'm gonna read super chats. Okay, we got Over 1,000 people. Do you want to actually, Doug MPA, can you send him the link? Yeah, because I want to see if he has any thoughts on the conversation. Actually, it would have been interesting. I should have brought both of them up. I feel like Doug MPA would have loved this. Okay, so let's do supers. All right, Andrew is completely out of line. Most things he says are usually on point, but his homophobia is on full display at this time. Look, I'm kind of homophobic too. I just don't care. Andrew's stepdad are men that women wouldn't date if they have kids. Andrew's a stepdad. Pearl, your value pragmatism and happiness above any other outcome. Zero moral ground, the same as your liberal and feminist followers. Pearl sounding like a modern 304. I guess so. Pearl versus Pale Man from Pan's Labyrinth. Oh my gosh, Peter. I made love to my first wife. She passed away. I married again and made love to her. What does that make me? A degenerate, obviously. Yes, and this is my point. They peddle religion. So, every time someone's trying to sell you something, they're always going to push things towards their worldview, and that's the problem. Yes, we are peddling religion. If you don't believe in any higher purpose, then there's no reason to get married or have a family or do anything except party. Yeah, and I think that's the other point. Most people aren't that religious. Marriage is a sacrament of the church and not a piece of paper. Also, I forgot he met you, so I'm sorry you got dragged into this. I forgot he met you in person. You were this fantasy guy. I was like, no, don't roast my producer. Don't do that. He's innocent in this. History, they got a real possibility of family. Democracy's design has been failings. We've reached it. You can't stop what people believe in, good or bad. Collapse is likely the only option left. You guys are talking past each other. Andrew cares about higher meaning and purpose in his worldview, one of the Christian ethics. Pearl is strictly sticking to the material in here and now. The parasocial weirdo Gen X fans, only subscribers are mad. They're daddies. They live vicariously through getting wrecked, get a surrogate. Men's reward is further out of reach than in history. This is the point. The non-set, if the product is good, people will buy, will line up, is historically and evidently not true at all. It's called getting a surrogate, destroys his argument. Kids raised by a single father do just as well as a two-parent household. Don't need real marriage. Ask if things have gotten worse. Oh, I should have asked that. Good question. He can't acknowledge it's gotten worse. What men get in family and children and a lifetime commitment, being a father and raising children with a mother is its own reward. It fills a base. Women either ignore exists or deny it exists. Women could fix all of this if they wanted to. They created the system. They have votes. Men didn't break the social contract. Women did. And since they're so smart, why don't they fix this? Urban families are non-existent. People don't communicate anymore, just looking for that money. Yes, men get what they always got for marriage and kids, but the risks and costs for the gambler are way up. 1,000 times in the past years, Andrew, you're arguing against the rational analysis of billions of men. Men get a family which gets destroyed. It's easy to make silly OF girls look bad, but when Andrew is over his head dealing with Pearl, men garnered authority and respect from their wives. That was their benefit. Egalitarians will never allow male authority. The allure in history of the possibility of getting a family was much higher and reasonable. He can't acknowledge it's getting worse from history. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Sup, everyone. I really enjoyed seeing Andrew on Louder with Crowder. For me personally, seeing Andrew getting on bigger outlets, I'm predicting eventually a collision course with Andrew and Matt Walsh. Prescription isn't the problem. Getting there is. OMG from the Cade. The dude reminds me of an apocalypse giving the gospel. I'm going to have to change my day of evening plans now. Women's influential control politics, aka government and companies for advertisement. They have the power over propaganda and try convincing power to give up power. Great prescription, but you can't make it. Look at the support oh wait, I read this one. Okay, let me refresh, and then Doug MPA can give his points. Okay. Doug MPA, how you doing?
Hey, bro. How are you doing?
I'm good. What's going on?
So I like Andrew Wilson. I'll always be Team Pearl because I've been supporting you since before you got famous. My biggest thing with Andrew is he keeps doing the whole men owe society. And one of the best quotes I've ever heard is women changed the social rules to the 20th century and the 20th century, and the 21st century is going to be men responding to it. And men like Andrew men like Andrew don't like how men are responding to how women rewrote society. And he makes a false dichotomy between you're either virtuous and you're a man in a marriage, or you're banging a bunch of whores. And that's not true. The red pill never says just bang a bunch of whores. Guys, you don't have to be a pack mule for some woman. You just don't. And men don't get anything out of the average man doesn't get anything out of marriage. I'm sorry. And also, with religious prescriptions, we all know that religious women can be as big of whores, if not bigger whores, than secular women. There is a social infrastructure in place to reward women being not having virtue and not being virtuous. So Andrew says, look for virtuous women. Okay, what incentive do women have? Okay, for a woman to be virtuous, she has to act in a virtuous way, right? Like Christians, you have to choose to be a Christian. You label yourself as one, and you choose to live that lifestyle. If a woman is to be virtuous, she has to exist in a virtuous way. In modern society, women aren't virtuous, and they are celebrated for not being virtuous. So there's no point in men getting married because they don't get anything. Women will divorce you. They'll take your kids. And here's the thing. The only thing worse than being lonely and men being lonely and being unhappy is getting your family ripped away from you, paying alimony and child support while your wife bangs her personal trainer on your dime. In the red pill, the worst thing that could happen is usually that. So I'd rather be lonely by myself than be a guy that bought a bad deal, and now his wife gets the benefit. His ex-wife gets the benefit for the rest of his life while he's in poverty. And so I like the fact that Andrew is so hopeful and so optimistic, but you got to live the now, guys. Your emotional, mental, spiritual, and monetary health is at stake, and no one is going to care about you unless you care about yourself. And here's the thing. What a lot of these trad cons don't realize is that us red pill people, we can say don't get married all you want, don't have kids all you want, but men are going to keep making decisions because that's what men do. We're cost benefit calculators. We make decisions. The red pill is just about awareness. We want men to make the best decision possible because no matter the decision, whatever the outcome is, it's your fault. You have to take responsibility for it. And there's been 40, 50 years of unadulterated, unfiltered, unchallenged misandry in this country. And also, one last thing. Anything that's taken for granted, take it away from the person and see what happens. That's what men are doing right now. Men have been taken for granted for the past 50 years. Men have been women's little golden shiny toy that they've been, tossing around and kicking around and throwing in the mud and stuff. They've been taking their shiny little toy for granted. And men are saying, if you think you're so strong and independent, go right ahead and see what happens. And so I'm all for men unplugging, minding your own business. Don't get married. Don't have kids. Men, most of the people alone throughout history have been men. Now we can see what happens when it's women. Women think they want the smoke of being a man, but they don't know what that entails. Being a man is a long, hard road. It's not fun, but it's also the greatest responsibility and the greatest gift that you could possibly have is the journey of a man. Women think they want the smoke, so let them find out. Live life on your own terms. As long as you're not being a terrible person, you're not harming others. So I just don't like, especially with religious people. I'm not religious, but these religious prescriptors, Pearl tries to make her her content for relatable to all men, not just Christians, Muslims, or whatever, because all men can get got. All of them can. So Pearl is trying to appeal to as many men as possible. And so anyway, so I like Andrew. He's my favorite debater right now. I like watching him cook these hoes. But when it comes to modern dating and what men have to go through, it's rough out here, man. It's rough out here.
I'm going to read from the website. If you guys have anything on the website, you do get unlimited super chats on the audacitynetwork.com. The link is in the description. We are on both app stores. It was a good heated debate. It got very heated, but I enjoyed it. I think you should continue this with him, but maybe have Rachel on at the same time. Okay. Yeah, probably. We could do it again. Okay, I didn't see Andrew was talking about. What do you think about the argument, Doug, that he was saying how like it's best for men to get married and he just does what's best for men?
So I don't have any children, right? And my parents say, "Oh, why don't you have any children?" I say, "Because I'd have to have a child with one of these modern women. Modern women have no duty to anything. What is more important to women and what can get women to care more about anything except their own selfish desires? What?
Nothing.
How can you? I think that men in their DNA still have, they still strive for what's best for society, God, country, family, but women don't have that same responsibility and that same duty. You always say on your channel, Pearl, there's people have this misnomer and make the mistake that women are the more nurturing gender, and in 2025 they're not.
They're simply not.
Men are more nurturing than women. Tell me I'm lying. Women put their, and I think that one of the main motivations and tactics of modern women is they want to take a successful, ambitious, God-fearing man, and when they get married, have that man set aside his ambition, his desires for her selfish desires. A woman can have a husband, have a family, and still be thinking about herself. The man is planning for the wife and the children, and the woman is planning for herself. Nothing in 2025 is more important to women than their own selfish desires. And that's what guys like Andrew don't put into the equation. You give them prescriptions for men, but they still have to deal with these women.
Yeah. I just would never, like, if someone took his prescription and ended up committing suicide, would he feel responsible?
Well, I mean,
and I'm not trying to like be a doom and gloomer, but it's like I would feel responsible if someone took my advice and they went like, that's why, you have to make the decision because the responsibility for it's on you. It's not on me. Like, I don't have to deal with it. It's easy for an influencer to say what you should do with your life. And like, why did he keep saying that he didn't say to wait for a non-virgin woman? Like, did I miss something? He did say that, did he not?
Well, I mean, there needs to be another term besides a born again.
Oh, he just didn't like the term. I'm like, what else are you gonna call it? Like,
yeah,
it's like a woman that's not a virgin getting virgin benefits. Like, what else are you gonna?
And to people that are from Andrew's channel on here, you want to be the guy that the woman sleeps with on the first date.
You do.
Because I'd say 90% of women have slept with a guy on the first date. You want to be that guy. You don't want to be the guy that she makes wait. Because then, I mean, come on now. But
all right, so that channels in, then you become this guy. All right, have you seen the Amouranth beef yet?